We'll start recording. We want to get this one on the record. So, how are you doing tonight?
Okay.
Are you isolated in your own world over there?
Yeah, I'm isolated in a nice house, a little bit outside of Bangkok, with my girlfriend, her mother, and her son. And there is a small garden. Her mom is cooking super well. I'm doing a little bit of yoga every morning. I'm fighting with her son with a pillow every afternoon. And the rest of the time, I'm
So
working a little bit on article and stuff like that, and trying not to lose my time. But yeah, everything is stopped.
And not lose your mind either. I think that's the other important thing that we have to
No,
try.
no, actually, I'm super busy. Between my post, one day, one reference stone and one story, that takes kind of a lot of time, plus article, plus all that. No, I'm quite busy. I have quite a lot to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vincent, you and I met back in, I think, 2016. I think it was the end of the year. It was my early experience in Bangkok. So you were really one of the first people that were really in the trade that I met. And
I'm not really the trade, huh?
well, you know what I
I'm
mean.
not a trader.
Well, you
In
were
the
working.
industry.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In the industry, you were working at GIA at the time, and I was in GIA at the school at the time, and I would see you sometimes in the pink tent where we were eating lunch, and that was the first time we ever crossed paths. And shortly after that, I finished school, and I met you sort of more formally, and you had invited me to come on to a trip with you, and you told me at that time that here are the rules, right? You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to be ready for this trip.
Yeah.
So I thought, the rules of the field gemology, this is a good way to kick off this conversation tonight. So I think you have something to show us in terms of your idea of the rules of what you need to do in order to prepare for a Vincent trip.
Yeah, usually this is something that I send. I have a file that I send by email to people who decide to come, in my expedition. Now I see that with Zoom, probably in the future, I will make a kind of a Zoom meeting with all the people I will welcome in my trip, and then we'll be able to work the thing a little bit differently. But yeah, it started at the origin. When I started that, it was just a discussion, we were around the table and things like that. And okay, what are the rules? What can we do? What can we not do? How can we prepare for the trip? And at the beginning, it was just, well, there is no rules, we just go and we see. But I saw a lot of, when you don't have the wisdom, you see mistake getting done one time and then that and that. And at the end, you say, okay, we'll put some rules, because there are some things I just don't want to see them anymore. So yeah, I put some rules. May I share my, I put them in a kind of a short talk.
Okay.
How can I share my screen now? I will share my screen. Yep, okay. Okay, everybody can see?
Looks good to me.
Okay, what do you see? You see
I see
Master
Richard
Hughes
and a young Vincent.
And a young Vincent. Okay.
Beardless Vincent.
Yeah, okay, or beardless Vincent. So that photo, it's one of my favorite photographs, because Richard has his website, Ruby and Sapphire, that was one of the first websites that I really enjoyed, has this black background on all the time. So this is a little bit like the colors of Richard. Mm-hmm. And actually, the rules of field gemology started with Richard, because one day we had a dinner together, and he told me, and there were some kind of informal rules, but he said, Vincent, there is I have a good rule, for your rules of field gemology. And I say, what rules of field gemology? And he say, you should put this rule, and you should write the rule, And basically the rule was sick men don't drink. That doesn't mean that healthy men have to drink. Number one, I have to say, somebody told me that. But this is a rule that was created by Richard, and actually that was the starting point of this basic rules of field gemology. Okay. So if you want to know the specifics about that rule, my my proposal is you go to ask to the copyright owner. So you go to Richard and you spam him with some email or some message and you ask him, please, can you tell me what does it mean sick men don't drink? And he will be very happy because probably he's confined somewhere and maybe he doesn't have too much thing to do. So you can send him some message and ask him what's about, sick men don't drink.
Well, actually, he's going to be on here in a couple of weeks, so maybe we can ask him on the air and see what he has to say about that.
Yeah, but I would prefer that by this time, he get a lot of training about explaining that.
Okay.
That's
we'll see what he says. We'll see what he says.
Okay. So it started with Richard. It started with the fun stuff during a dinner with Richard. So the first rule of field gemology, oh, what happened? Okay, that's the one. Survive. This is very simple. Safety first. It's better to have a good reason to come back than to be dead. There are many places that I tried to visit and I was not able to visit because at one point I considered that it was too dangerous. The conditions were not good. There was a problem here, there was that. And then we decided that, it's better to have a good reason to come back than to be dead. So safety first. And please, if you go to the field, don't take too much risk.
It's a good rule.
Rule number 2 is I don't like to travel alone. I don't think that this is safe. So for many reasons. And I don't like also to travel with people that I don't know, because when you don't know people, you don't know how they will react when things can become a little bit funny. And sometimes, they might just stab you in the back, or they might even create more trouble than the actual problem. Actually, the most important thing, the main danger that you will face in an expedition is coming from you and your team. The most dangerous people in a field expedition are the people in your team. If you have some problem in your team, that will be a disaster during the expedition. It happened to me several times. And the biggest problem I ever had in the field were most of the time the consequence on the action of some people in my team.
Okay, I want to hear more. I want to hear more about that, but I want to know the rest of the rules before we get too deep into the story.
No, I can tell you about two specific things about I don't like to travel alone. 2 reasons why we should not travel alone. Number 1, you get sick. If you get sick and you cannot do anything, who will call the doctor? Who will come to help you? So if you travel with somebody, maybe the other one will be in a much better condition than you, and he will be able to call, the doctor, and then you might survive. You need you have to be at one point the nanny of the other one. And you are not all the time at the top of your form. So it's better to be with 2 people.
Yeah.
Number 2, in 2010, I was invited by a mining company to come to visit their mine in Cambodia. Mining company south of Padi. I will not say the nationality because maybe people can find. It was a place that I wanted to visit. I wanted to go there because it's a place where many people were mining in the past, and I wanted to get there in order to collect some samples. And I was trying to contact them. And one day I received an email from one guy from this place, and he invited me to come to the mine. Then I met him, and he said, yeah, you should come, and things like that. And I said, okay. So we planned a trip. And we planned the trip in beginning May 2010. The bad news, expect the unexpected, that was that in May 2010, you had the red shirt issue in Thailand and everything was locked down. So for 1 month, I was confined in my room because basically the place where I was living was just near the main place with the protest of the red shirt. So I could not move from my apartment. So I was not able to go to Pailin. So I had to tell the guy, well, no, I cannot come because I'm blocked, at home. And after that, I had some other trips that were scheduled. So, I could not written like that there. And a few months pass, and 6 months later, I received an email from a guy who was working from that mine, and he was informed me that he was very happy that I was not coming to the mine, because actually it was a trap.
Really?
The plan of the miner was, he wanted me to stay at the mine. He offered me for, you can stay and stay at the thing, and we will show you everything. According to the guys, the staff of the mine, the plan was to attract a foreign gemologist or geologist, and then he stayed at the mine. And then the next day, one of the lady who was working at the mine will go to the police and complain that, the foreign geologist or gemologist tried to rape her.
Wow.
So then you get arrested. And then the miner, his plan was to basically be the middleman in order to negotiate your release.
Oh, this is crazy. So this is the kind of situation that you have to deal with, not often, but sometimes. This kind of.
So when this thing happened, and I remember my friend Vota, my contact in a piling, he told me, it's better if you come with a team, because with several people, because it's safer.
So the rules were a work in progress. This wasn't just...
team. I say, and then at this time I was thinking, how should do that? Somewhere, if we travel with only guys also, they can still accuse us for doing that. But if there are some girls in the group, okay, let's 2 guys, 2 girls, 4 people, and they will put us all in jail, and they will say that we tried to rape the maid. So it's better to go, number one, not to accept too many invitations. You have to know the people when you go to a place. And when you go with several people, there are witnesses on your side.
Yeah.
To say that, well, no, I was in the same room as this guy, and we saw him all the time, and he didn't make anything.
Yeah. Wow.
So on that day, I was very lucky. And then I say, well, my rule about not traveling alone is actually a good one.
Yeah. It sounds like.
So that's why I don't travel alone. You never know what happens. You can fall in a trap. If you're alone, you're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
So that's rule number 2.
That's a good rule. Okay.
Rule number 3, expect the unexpected. Like, yes, you can fall down in a trap. You can find a great stone. You can have a coronavirus, destroying all your business plan and things like that. Life is full of expectation. And when you go to the field, you go out of your normal area, you have to expect even more unexpected thing. You go to the airport, the plane is late, you miss your connection. What will happen with... There are all the time things that basically don't go as planned. So you have to get ready for that. You have to get a plan B. You have to be creative in order to, okay, there was this problem. How can we solve the situation? Rule number 4, never give up, be focused and disciplined. It's not because there are some problem, like unexpected problem, that you have to stop everything. You have to, okay, well, we have this type of issue. How can we deal with that? Okay, we have to come back. Okay, so in 3 or 4 months, we will come back and we'll find some better solution. Maybe we learn something from that we didn't think about before. And we take that in consideration. Next time we'll have more chance to succeed. So from maybe 40% chance to succeed, you go to 50%, and then you fail again, you go to 60%, and then you fail again, and you go to 70%, and then you succeed. So no, don't give up. Don't, play loser, and be focused, disciplined, and try to achieve your goal. From one dream, you turn a dream into a plan, and then one day you succeed.
Okay.
Rule number 5. If you travel with me, there is one thing I really hate when people travel with me. I have a very big problem with the complainers. People who complain all the time, it's, for me, it's contagious. So I really don't like complainers. So usually when I go on a field trip, I tell you all the list of every bad thing that can happen to you. And if any of these bad things happen to you, well, you know already, so you should not complain about that. So, yeah, yeah. So you have to be, I don't force anybody to come with me. I don't take any customers. So far, I took one or twice I was hired, you know, to take some people somewhere and to make a documentary. Okay, usually I say I don't take customers, but I don't force anybody to come with me.
Yeah.
So if you are not ready for what it's coming, just don't come. If you don't come, you don't complain. I don't have any trouble. I'm fine. So complainers, please no. But if you have a problem, for example, you have blisters or anything, you have a problem, please communicate. Because the worst thing in a field expedition is if you don't communicate, and then the problem becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's not just a problem for you, it might be a problem for the whole team. So you can just say, well, I have a blister, and then we ask, can you still walk? Yeah, say, okay, we will stop in 20 minutes, and when there is a suitable place, and maybe we'll take care of the blister. Or we take care of the blister now because it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's important to communicate. And as you know, as a leader of the expedition, I want to have bad news first. If there is anything that happens that is bad or something like that, I want to know first. If you don't tell me, and then I see they become a big problem, I just fire you from the team because you are not reliable. Bad news first.
And somebody in the chat said these are great, just general rules for life as well. So not just for the field expedition, but just in everyday life.
Well, in everyday life, you know, when I'm, for example, in a lab, people complain, you know, you're in a company, people complain. I'm an employee, they are an employee, they can complain. Okay, but when they come in my expedition, no, no complainers. Okay, rule number 6. Okay, when people want to go in the field, the first thing they told me, they ask usually is, oh, what should I get? I need to get a bag, I need to get which type of shoes I need to get, which type of that and that, and how much money I need to bring. That's not the first thing you should think about when you go in an expedition. First thing you should think about if you go to an expedition, do I have enough time to go there and to come back? And do I have enough time also in case of problem or in case of opportunities? If you are squeezed by time, you may have the right shoes or the money, you will never be able to reach the mining area because you don't have the time. So to have the money and the equipment, if you don't have the time, it's just a waste of resource. So the most important thing when you prepare an expedition is to have enough time to be able to succeed and succeed safely. The second most important thing is to have a reliable person with you, because if you don't have you know, enough money, maybe he has, and you know, a fancy equipment, maybe you can share. So the most important thing is, do you have time to go and to come back safely? And, you know, do you have a good team? All the rest, of course, it's better to have enough money to pay for the trip expense and things like that, and to have good equipment. But the most two important thing is, do we have enough time? And, oh, look at the team. I don't like this guy. I don't trust this guy, so I don't go. If I see in my team there is a guy I don't trust, I just don't go.
Yeah.
Because if there is any problem during the expedition, and there is a guy that's a troublemaker, the problem will be worse. And then maybe that will be your last field expedition because you will die there.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to say, well, I'm not going on that one.
Yeah, you got to stick to your
own.
There
is not enough time, and I don't trust that guy, so I don't go.
Yeah.
Okay. Rule number 7. Preparation and timing are the key. I had some friends that told me, oh, you know, it's a funny guy who said, you know, I will optimize the luck factor.
Okay, good idea.
No, luck is not a business plan. Luck is not a business plan. You don't have to say, I hope I will be lucky. No. You will optimize your luck factor, you know, with hard work and some kind of smart work. if you work hard and smart before an expedition in order to get everything ready, if you prepare the expedition, you read article, you have map, you have everything, you know, more or less ready. If something happens, you will be more likely to be able to find a solution. If you just hope that, you know, Santa Claus will come or the charming prince or something like that, no, it doesn't happen. In real life, you will be in big trouble. So usually when I prepare an expedition, when I go in the field, it's about one third, one third, one third. If you go, for example, in the field for 2 weeks, it takes about 2 weeks to prepare, and it takes about 2 weeks to write the report and do the work after the field trip. So in 1 year, it's very difficult to be in the field for more than 4 months.
Yeah.
Well, at least if you do research, if you want to write a report. I mean, the expeditions, the way I'm doing them, where you prepare things, you write a report, and you work on your sample after. But for me, I cannot do more than one third of my time, you know, in the field.
And somebody asked, what do you find has been the most efficient number of people to have on a trip? You know, what's too little, what's too many?
It depends. It depends. That's about be organized. Be organized is, it all depends about the plan, about where you want to go. For example, if I go in a place like Pakistan or Afghanistan, there are some serious risk of being kidnapped. And then you will finish maybe video. That's not the type of video you want to do or that I put on YouTube. But one period, you know, with an orange combination and a thing like that, not a great video. So you don't want to get kidnapped. If you don't want to get kidnapped, you have to be low profile. If you don't want to be low profile, a small group is better. And a small group, and then you have to, you know, dress locally, and you have to blend in the local population. So if you can blend in the local population, like I can do, I need to be organized. I need to grow my beard. I need to have the right clothing. When I arrive in the country, I just look like one of the other guys from Pakistan, Afghanistan in the plane. I go to the airport, I have my sherwa kameez, I have my stuff, I just go there. If the guys see when I arrive at the airport that I have a French passport, okay, that's the only time. And I don't speak, I don't speak, I don't say anything. So how people can know that I'm a foreigner? I remove my glasses, I remove everything, I just blend. So I don't get noticed. If you don't get noticed, you have less chance to be kidnapped. Now, if you go to a country where, for example, in Africa, there are some mining areas, they are very remote. And terrain can be funny and the roads are bad. One of the main danger you have on the road on a field trip is a car accident.
Yeah.
So if you have one car and you have a car accident at 4 hours away from your hotel, how you do? My advice, get 2 cars.
Yeah.
If you have an accident with one car, there is still a car that is okay to bring you back to the hotel, to go to search for, you know, rescue and things like that. That's safe. So 2 cars in Tanzania or Kenya, maybe the car will be $400 per day without the driver, without the gas. So $500 budget to have a good car. Of course, you can get cheaper car, but you will maximize the chance to have an accident or to have, because the car will not be well maintained and things like that. So Kenya, Tanzania are expensive because you have all the safari things. So you have to get a good safari car. That will cost you $500 per day. 2 car is $1,000 per day. 20 days in Tanzania is $20,000. So it's better to have people.
Yeah.
So you share, you know, 2 cars. It means, okay, we can go 6 people. So I can take 5 people in my team. So what is the best number of people in a team? If you want to travel, to share travel expense, when you go in a place like Tanzania where you have to rent 2 cars, I think the more people, the better, like 4 or 5 or maybe 6 is quite okay. If I go to Afghanistan, just 1 person is the best, 1 local contact that you trust, and that's it.
And I know some of the places in your talk with Rui the other day, you said occasionally you do need to hire security depending on where you're at. And someone had just asked, do you ever bring weapons, or do you I know sometimes you need to hire someone? Like,
No, no, I never bring weapon. I don't bring weapon. You know, for example, a place where I usually take security is Madagascar. I don't bring weapon. You know, if you go to Madagascar with a gun, you need a license. In many countries, you need a license to have a gun. And the first thing you do when you arrive in a country, you don't buy a gun. So I have, you know, I know quite a lot about gun. I was raised with gun. My family, we are hunters, and I had my first gun at 8 years old, and I'm easy with guns. There is one thing I know about guns. The problem with gun is when you have a gun, you are likely to use it if there is a kind of problem.
Mm.
So if you have a gun, you have a problem, you take out the gun. Now, if you don't have a gun, you have a problem, you think. Because you don't have a gun, so you will start to think. And usually, you don't need a gun to solve most of the problem. But when people have a gun, they tend to try to solve the problem using the gun. I have seen in many situations that, you know, having a gun in my team, people carrying gun are starting to make funny decisions. Mm. So I don't like to have guns in my team.
Okay.
So I don't carry a gun. I don't have a gun. Or, you know, if sometimes people traveling with me have a gun, but this is their thing. And okay, sometimes you need to have security. So I hire to go to a place. For example, you see the mining officer in the region, and he say, okay, you can go there, but I don't want you to go alone because security problem. I cannot have a foreigner getting killed in my district. Mm-hmm. They don't want to have any dead foreigner in their district. So you say, you can go there, but you need to have security with you. So I will make a paper for the chief of the police. So, you know, I will ask him to provide you an armed escort. So with the letter from the mining officer, you go to the chief of the police and you have a request. Okay, I'm doing some scientific research. I'm going there. And he is okay for me to go, but I need to discuss with you about an armed escort. So one guy is not usually a good idea because something can happen to him. Two guys are better. And especially when you go, for example, on a longer trip walking, if you go with only one security guy, who, you know, you have your camp with your tent and all your stuff, and then you go to visit the mine. So where will be the armed guard? He will keep your camp, or he will with your tools, or he will go with you to visit the mine. Mm. So you need all the time to have one security at the camp and one security wherever you go. So you need minimum two security, two armed guard. If you go to sleep somewhere, if you go to have a base, you need two security guys.
But this is not the normal situation for you, though. This is
nearly every time I go to Madagascar. Nearly every time I go to Madagascar,
yeah,
I take.
But I mean, as far as the whole world, you're not normally hiring armed guards, just in certain places and certain situations, right?
Well, in Asia, well, in Southeast Asia, usually not. But in places where, you know, it's less organized, you know, in all mining areas, like Burma, like Thailand, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, it's well organized and people know about the gem trade. Usually there is no problem with security. But when you go to places like in Africa, where you have new mining area, and you have also a lot of poverty because you have a significant percentage of the population that is unemployed, and you have also a lot of bandits and all these things. Then when you request, most of the time the mining area are not allowed for foreigners. Now, if you request a specific permission to go there, they will say, yeah, but you need security. And in many places, in Tanzania often, in Madagascar, when you go to some mining areas that are more than 1 kilometer away from the road, 1 kilometer and sometimes away from the road in Madagascar is called a red area. So you cannot really go without security.
Yeah.
Because the authority will not be happy to have a dead foreigner in their district. So when you go to see the authority, you inform them that what you are doing, and then you ask them for advice. And most of the time they will say, okay, if you know how to convince them, and you explain your thing. You're not a dealer. You're not here to buy stone. You're not here to compete with the local dealers. So you're not create trouble in the local business. And you will be, with the local merchants that the guy know. So, if you do all the thing right, there is a local person with you that knows the chief of the district, that knows the mining officer, and he says that you are a good guy. You will not create trouble. So you explain a little bit that you're working for a lab and you're doing this and that. Then he might say, okay, but he say you need to have an arm escort. Now, when I get an arm escort, usually what I ask is I want to be sure that the soldiers with me or the policemen don't drink, because that's the main danger. When you start to have, you go to mining areas and you have people drinking, in your team, that's super bad, because that shows a bad example. Then you have miners coming asking for drink. As soon as you have drinks, people come and then when you start to have drunk people around you, that start to be dangerous, especially when there are drunk people plus guns.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But anytime you have a gun in your team, especially from a security guy, that's super dangerous. Actually, the most dangerous thing that ever happened to me in my team, the only one time somebody got shot, it was the first time that I was kind of hired to take somebody in the field. It was in 2005, in September. Richard Hughes asked me to take him to Madagascar, because he wanted to see Ilakak, he wanted to see Andy Lamen, the place where you had all these. So he didn't know Madagascar, he never traveled there. I traveled there for 1 month in June, so he knew that. And he knew also that I could speak French, and in Madagascar they speak French. So he said, Vincent, can you take me there? And I saw that you had a great trip, and maybe we should do it again together, I would appreciate. So I asked to my boss, to Henry O, to AIGS, and Henry accepted to give me a leave in order to take Richard there. So we wanted to go to Andy Lamen because there was about 15,000 miners in the forest mining in this incredible place, about 1 day walking deep in the jungle. So you walk for 1 full day, like 12, 13 hours, then you sleep there, then you visit the mine, then you sleep again, and then you come back. So we went there with an army escort, because when we arrived, the chief of district told us that, the day before there were a group of miners on the way back from the mine. They were attacked by bandits. So probably miners who were broke, and then or maybe in debt for something, they were needing money. So when you have 1 day walking between the village and the mine, there are some people, maybe they say, okay, maybe we can set up an ambush. And if there is 1 or 2 guys coming alone, and we are stronger than them, maybe we can steal their stone, or steal their supply, or steal their money.
Yeah.
So this happened regularly. So he said that you cannot go if you don't have an army escort. So he gave us 2 policemen to travel with, and everything was okay. We went there on the way to the mine. On the way back to the mine, when around lunch, we made a small stop in a small hut in the jungle, and there was not really too much food, but there was a pineapple. I remember about that pineapple. So I was so hungry and thirsty. We had it was really a tough walk because it's all up and down, up and down. There was some mud, and I was exhausted on the way back. 3 days walking, it was really tough, and I could not sleep at night because there were rats around. And Dana, a guy who was with us, was making fun game. He was making noise to make me think that there were some rats. So I could not sleep too much because I don't like when rats are jumping on me when I sleep. So I didn't have a really good night thanks to my buddy Dana. So I was pretty exhausted. So I was in front of his pineapple and eating this pineapple, like a caveman, on his last meal. And the policeman who was next to me, it was for him a little bit the end of his mission. There was some rain, and so he started to clean his gun, his handgun. And Richard was in front. He didn't like pineapple, so he was not eating. And then the guy finished to clean his gun. And then you know what he do when he finished to clean the gun? He pulled on the trigger. There was a bullet in the gun, and the bullet went 10 centimeters from the head of Richard Hughes.
Wow. So Richard was pretty lucky that day.
The policeman traveling with us put a bullet 10 centimeters from the head of Richard Hughes.
Jeez. But
So think about, is it a
no,
good idea to have a gun in your team? Well, it depends about who is holding the gun. A stupid guy with a gun who is drinking, what will you say? There is a policeman with you. He is stupid, he has a gun, and he drinks.
yeah.
What are you going to do? You're
And
going
if
to
he's the
explain to the
policeman,
policeman that...
yeah, then and if he's the policeman, then he's not even in your team. You can't really tell him to go home
Oh,
because
okay, I don't speak about policemen who are not in my team. That's another type of super... Most of the problem I had were with policemen that were not in my team, that were trying to make money on us. So but they were just trying to make money on us. They were not harassing by policemen in some countries. That's a common thing. You get that all the time. Yeah. Except if you are with somebody and the policeman says, oh, I don't, because they know the owner of the mine or things like that. So they will not harass you because they know the people who are with you. And then, but in some place, sometimes you drive one day, you get stopped 10 times, and 10 times you have policemen trying to find any kind of reason to squeeze you and to get some money out of you.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are drunk.
Yeah. So all that kind of organization in terms of getting the, whether you're going to get an armed guard or not, finding all these different connections, getting the advisories from the different people, this is kind of all in your planning stage, right? This is all happening even before you hit the ground. This is when you're still at home and getting ready for the trip.
Well, this is what you discuss with your local contact. I don't go to a place if I don't have a trustable local contact.
Okay. So
maybe 2 or 3 months before to go somewhere, I contact my friend. I'm doing the same way as the gem merchants are doing. If you want to go somewhere, you need to have one trustable local contact in every country you want to go. And then you make a plan with that person, because that person will have, his job is, he knows the country, he knows the law, he knows how to get the paper necessary for you to be able to go on site. If you need an authorization, if you don't need, how to organize the thing, logistics, where to sleep, do we need an army escort? Yes, no, how we do if we need one? Can you, before the expedition, he go to see the chief of district, say, in 1 week I will come with a foreigner, we are going to do that, is it possible? And so he say, the role of the local contact is super important. Yeah. When you have the right local contact, and he is organized, and he is trustable, and he wants you to help you really, then everything is easy. If you have a messy local contact and who is not connected with the right people,
it's not going to work.
No.
So are we at the end of your, is there more rules, or was that all the rules?
No, that's number 9 is paciencia. Sometimes you have to be patient. As long as you don't have the right contact, as long as you don't have the right team, as long as you don't have the authorization, sometimes you have everything and you arrive to the village, and then the elders of the village, there is a kind of, it's not really official, but the elders of the village want to meet you. So they organize a kind of powwow, and you have 5 or 10 people who come. There is one guy missing, he's the next village. Somebody went with a motorbike to go to get the guy. So 1 hour later, you have the last guy who come, and everybody is in front. And then when all the elders of the village is here, basically you have to explain what you want to do. You are with a guy from the government, there is a paper that allow you to go to the mine, but they don't care, because here is their village, and they want to know who you are. And as long as they are not okay with that, you will not go to visit the mine. So the value of a paper from a government, sometimes, in the middle of the bush somewhere, doesn't have much value. So you have to be patient, and you have to adapt to the local thing. Sometimes you will lose a whole day. And sometimes you say, oh, we were thinking to go and come back, and our hotel is 4-hour drive there, and we'll never be able to see the mine today. So basically you speak with the elders and you organize a visit for the next day. Or maybe you think about, maybe we should sleep here. There is a place, or how can we do? Or maybe what can we do? Yeah. How to organize the thing. And sometimes it will take 2 or 3 days to convince the guys that you can visit the place. Yeah. It happened to me in Afghanistan. It happened to me in Africa. So you have to be patient.
Yeah. So speaking of patience, somebody had asked, what do you do if a storm comes whenever you're like in the mining area? Do you have
You
to
get
wait it
wet.
out? You just,
You get wet.
yeah. But I mean, what
It's
if,
okay.
yeah,
If a storm comes, you get wet. It's fine. You will survive.
yeah,
No, storm under the well, if you are in a forest and there is a storm, that's dangerous because the branch might fall down and might kill you. So if there is a storm coming, you go in the open and you get wet. It's better to get wet than to be dead.
yeah,
If there is a shelter, you can go. But if there is no shelter and you are, yeah, you go to the open and you get wet, and then you will dry yourself. So that's why, for example, when you carry your equipment, you make sure that they are all in a plastic bag, because if you get wet on the way, because maybe you are not really well organized, sometimes it's not a good idea to go in the field during the rainy season because you will get wet. But sometimes you have no choice because there is a rush. There are many people who are going mining and you want to document the thing and it's raining. So you know you will get wet. Maybe you will get wet for 3 days, on 4 days or 5 days, and you will start to have mushroom on your feet. But that's the price to pay in order to witness maybe a 20,000 miner mining in the middle of the jungle in Madagascar.
yeah.
And you will get an infection on your feet because when your feet are wet, the skin start to get, like a white on the soft.
Yeah.
And then if you have a small cut, then it's open and then you have an infection. And put antibiotics and stuff like that. It happened to me several times. One time I had my feet at double size. Yeah.
So that's the end of our, that's the end of,
Yeah, that's the end of the small rules of field gemology. So I will stop sharing my screen.
and
But
so,
that's a kind of summary, a bit of the talk I gave, last week.
yeah. And I know in
And,
Rui's talk, you were saying that you'd done over, what is it, 150 some trips
no,
now, right?
148.
148.
148.
And so, you know, of course, if we're here in the room with you, we've probably seen some of your videos. We've seen some of your talks. We have an idea about we have a little bit of an idea about what you're doing out there. But I think from my point of view, at least, one of the things that you haven't been able to share so much is this sort of the social aspect of the trip. And, you know, and kind of what you're saying, it's always good to go with your group or your team, right? So, you know, I know for the trip that I went on with you, or the two trips, we had, I think, 4 or 5 people on each trip. How do you go about, you know, finding these different people that are going with you?
well, usually I don't find them, they found me.
Yeah.
You found me.
Yeah.
You came to see me. I don't advertise. I wait for people to ask me. I don't want to. I have already too many people who want to come to with me, so I don't advertise.
And have
People
you?
come,
Yeah.
they ask me, and then I meet them. And I told you I don't like to travel with people that I don't know, so I will not advertise because then people that I don't know will come. And usually I meet people, and if I feel that these guys are okay, maybe I will go to have a lunch or a dinner with them, have a drink, and then we speak. What are you doing here? Oh, you're studying gemology, like you know, and you were studying gemology. You told me a little bit about your background. I say, okay, this guy looks interesting. And then I was thinking, well, I'm going to Cambodia. I want to go to the zircon mine. Yeah, we can. What can we do? I just finished my thing with GIA. Now it's an independent trip. We have to go there. We have to rent a minibus. How many space we have? Okay, 6, 7, 8. 8. Okay, we can be 8. So we share the cost. So it's cheaper for everybody. And do I have 8 people that would like to travel with? So, tuk. I say, yeah, this guy, why not? Make a nice team with some guys, some girls, many people interested with different backgrounds in order to have some interesting discussion during lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
And people that can bring some skills. I like to travel, for example, with good photographers because I don't take selfies. So at least there will be people taking photographs of me in the field. Okay, this photograph, I make sure that everybody sign a copyright agreement that I will have the copyright on the photograph that everybody take during my expedition. So if you are willing to come and you're a good photographer and you're willing to document the expedition, okay, you will be useful for the team if you take good photo. If you are a geologist and you can explain me about the rocks, something like that, yeah, you will be useful because I have some understanding of geology, but I didn't study geology, I studied physical chemistry. So I'm more like, my background is more lab background, but actually I like to go to the field. So I found out that you can go to the field. You don't have to be a geologist to go to the field. You just need to travel with a geologist and then you learn from him.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find out that on some specific place, you are more knowledgeable than him because he has maybe a degree, but he never visited a ruby mine. And he never read a paper about ruby. But okay. So, and sometimes you have people who speak language that you don't speak that can be very useful in the team. I went to Brazil, you know, there was a young gemologist who was speaking Portuguese. When I go to Mozambique or to Brazil, I don't speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish. So I took with me one of my friends who was Brazilian, or another time another friend was speaking Portuguese fluently because it's good to have a translator in the team.
Yeah.
And then several of my best friends currently are people that I travel with.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
over the years, there are some people I travel with them. I travel with them for the past 15 years. And they are not traveling too much anymore with me because now they have a business, they don't have the time and things like that. But sometimes once every year, once every 2 years. And we make common memories. So in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you know, when we'll be old near a fireplace and we'll be able to say, oh, you remember when we went there and then this happened and this happened. When you travel with people, you are making common memories. And out of these people, I know that there are many people, they just come to see me because they want something from me. They want to have a job. They want to have, they want to get rich. They want me to help them to get contacts in the field on that, on that. Basically, many people want to use me. But out of the whole group of people, there are a significant number of people that will remain good friends after that because I will find out that, okay, maybe they need some help. But when I need help, they are also here to help me. There are some other people, they need help, I help them, and then they stab me in the back. Then you know that when this happens. So in order to know if somebody will stab you in the back, well, you have to show your back to the guy. Then you know. I listen, people tell me, oh, you know, I will be great, I will do that, I will be on time, I will not do any problem, I will do, everything will be okay. And then I see what happened during the expedition. And then I know if I can travel with that guy again somewhere or if I cannot.
So what are some of the strangest things that happened to you on the trip, kind of with the, you know, maybe because of the team that you brought with? I know you've told me before that you have made a few mistakes in choosing those people. Are there any good stories that come to your mind of personnel related problems?
Good story, like
you know, some
problem. Yeah, well, yeah, there is one that I told you regularly. It's one day I went to the safari mine in Laos, and there was a bunch of guys who really wanted to travel with me, and they say, Vincent will not make any trouble, will not make any problem, everything will be okay and fine. Okay, take them with me. Then that was my third trip to the mine. So I knew I have already my drivers, I knew the miners, everything was okay. And I had a group of 7 or 8 people. And so we passed the border, you know, you arrive at the border in Laos, you have all the signals with, you know, guns are not allowed, and then drugs are not allowed. If you take drugs, you are found with drugs, you go in jail for 5 years, and you get a fine like up to $20,000, and this is not allowed, this is not allowed, all these things. Okay, we enter the country, I introduce them to my drivers, and we go to the mine. After 2 kilometers, I see the car at the back doing some, you know, light. Okay, my driver stopped, and my driver go to see the other guy, and then he called me. And then the other driver get out from the car. And the driver from the second car told me, Vincent, you know, you should tell to your travel buddies that it's not a good idea to ask to a policeman where they can buy drugs. I didn't tell my team, but my two drivers were two policemen who were making money, you know, outside of their working hours. But this guy is a guard number two. As soon as they went to the car with the driver, they asked the driver where they could find something to smoke. The driver stopped, called his colleagues. Then I went to see the guys and say, you know, and there was a guy who told me, Vincent, I will not make any problem. In some countries, you know, drugs is a kind of big problem. Maybe in your country it's okay, but in some country it's not. And doing something like that, the whole team can go in jail.
Yeah. You
buy some drugs, the policemen come to your to the hotel, they find some drug in somebody in the team, the whole team is going to jail. Is going to, then the police has a good way to harass you and to squeeze you and you spend 2 or 3 days, you know, and they will try to, you know, $20,000 fine. Who will pay that?
Yeah. We don't want to know.
So I can tell you, this guy never traveled anymore with me.
And so what about, you mentioned the time that Richard almost got his ear shot, but I think you told me another time of a story where you actually had a gun in your face. Am I correct in remembering this?
Yeah, that was Mozambique. In Mozambique, Mozambique was in 2009. There was this ruby discovery in northern Mozambique in a place called Nyassa, and in Nyassa there was nobody knew exactly where was the deposit. So I heard that there was something coming from near Lishinga and things like that. So I was with a team of 3 guys, 1 guy from Switzerland and 2 guys, 1 guy from France and 1 guy from Canada that I traveled a lot with. For this trip in Mozambique, I just took the 3 people that I traveled the most with, and we went there. And that was the first time I was going to Mozambique. I had no idea. I just got somebody from GIA, that was Brendan Lars, who was at this time editor at Field Gemology, who provided me 1 contact at Nampula at the tourmaline mine. And that contact in Nampula provided me a contact in Lishinga. So we went there in order to try to find, number 1, where was the mine? Where was the deposit? So we went there, and the contact took us to the mining department. So we went to the mining department. I had a mission letter from GIA, and going to the mining department and told the guy, and the guy from the mining department said, yeah, well, that's good. I would like also to go there because we know that there is something, but so far we were not able to go there because we don't have the money. So he said, if you are willing to pay for the expense of one of my technician, I will be very happy, you know, number 1, to give you the thing, but I will request you to take with you one of my technicians because I want him to make a report to know what is going on there. So for me, that was great because number 1, I had the authorization to go to the mine, and then number 2, I had a guy, a mining technician coming with us in case of problem. You know, it's okay. And the guy was speaking a little bit English. So, and the guy make us all the papers, and he said, okay, you have to go to see this guy, the chief of district, and then this guy, the chief of the police, and things like that. You report about your presence and you explain when you are there. You let my technician speak, and then it should be okay. And please, when you finish, you come back and you explain me everything because I want to know what is going on there. I say, okay, 1 shot, 2 good things. And so we went there, and arriving at the police station, the chief of the police said, well, I will give you a policeman in your team because it's a little bit funny there, and but for security, I don't want to have any kind of problem in my district. You take a policeman with you, but you cover his expense. Okay, no problem. So we arrive at the last village, the village called Sawize. And then we found out that there was no more road to go to the mining area because it was very remote and people could only go with motorbike. So there were some guys renting motorbike. When you have miners come and go and they make money. So you had guys with brand new motorbike. When you see brand new motorbike, you know that there is something good. So we took a motorbike and we started to drive in the bush. After about 20 kilometers on a motorbike, then there was some, dry stream. It was dry season, so there were some rivers. The river were dry, and several times we had to stop the motorbike, go down in the sand, and then go up again on the other side. So we arrived at one of these kind of gully, and then when as soon as the motorbike stopped, then I heard a noise on my right, and I still remember that I turned my face, and I look on the right. You had some bush, and suddenly I see a guy putting an AK-47 on my face, shouting in Portuguese. The guy was wearing a Osama bin Laden T-shirt, and his eyes were kind of funny, like the guy had smoke or drink or something, or maybe both. So I was thinking, like, okay, that's the end. I get shot. I had a good life, and then suddenly I was kind of funny. It's funny, you see that, and you are wondering in which kind of, are you dreaming? Is it reality? Is it you went to the fifth dimension or something? Like a time stop, you just see a gun pointed on your face and you say, oh shit, I'm dead. And then I heard a voice, and the voice said, don't worry, it's a policeman. That was my driver, the guy driving the motorbike. I said, don't worry, it's a policeman. I say, wow, policeman? Oh, that's a policeman. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. And then the guy was still shouting in Portuguese. Actually, they were policemen, and they had a camp, and they had orders to stop everybody going to the mine. So they heard the motorbike, so they set up an ambush. And then they were so happy to catch us because they were thinking that some white guys were coming. So they were probably the guys who were financing the illegal mining. So they were super happy to have catch us. They were not from the same police station as the guy who was with us. And our policemen, our mining technician, were no help at all because the policemen who arrested us were thinking, okay, this guy probably bribed the policemen and the officials there, so these guys are probably complicit. So they were thinking that they will be able to get, a big promotion. So we spent 3 days detained in the bush. We were not beaten, but it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They bring us to their camp that was far away. There were tsetse fly. We were eaten by tsetse flies the whole for about 2 or 3 hours. And then we were put in a place and we were asked to sleep on the floor outside. No water, no food for 24 hours. And then after that, the next day around noon, started with no food and no water and basically no sleep during the night. And during the night, there was a dead buffalo that was about 500 meters from us, and you had hyenas that were around the dead buffaloes that were all the time. So, and we were sleeping in the open, and we were gathering some small piece of wood, and we made a fire in order to, but the policemen were sleeping inside their car or inside tent, and we were sleeping outside on the floor. We were not allowed to sleep in the car or not in a kind of hut. We had to sleep, stay in the open. They say a circle. That circle, you stay in the middle.
Wow.
We will take care of your protection. You stay in the middle. So we were cold, we were thirsty, we were hungry. And I can tell you, in this type of situation, the most important thing is nobody complain. And everybody stick together. Nobody start to say that, oh, Vincent, I knew it was a bad idea to go to the mine area at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, because of you, we ain't shit, we go to die and that. This is not exactly the kind of thing you want to hear from the people in your team. When you're in this kind of situation, especially when the policemen start to take one of you, outside and question the people individually, you are hoping that everybody will have the same story.
Yeah.
So we discuss with the team, in case of problem, we just say the truth. And you stick to the truth. So if we stick to the truth, everybody will say the same thing. And nobody get angry. Everybody try to minimize, the kind of a problem, minimize the tension, make sure that, maybe it will take 1 day, maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days. Don't insult, don't do anything. I don't want anybody to get beaten. Don't give them an excuse to beat you. Be nice.
Yeah.
We have done nothing wrong. We have authorization. It's a mistake. Okay, we are making everything okay for nobody to die or to get wounded. And my guys were able to keep their nerves. I was super happy to be with these three guys and not to be with one of the funny guys who were asking, you know, like the guys asking drug to a policeman at the first step. Okay. So this is what I mean. You go in the field when everything is okay. You go with funny people, it's fine. But if anything happens, and if you are with the wrong people, you are in deep troubles. So if you want to go to the field, my advice, go with an organized tour. There is ICA doing that. There are gemological associations doing that. It's great because if you want to visit mining areas, they will organize that. And it will be well done. And you will meet people that will be in the industry. You will be also able to make connections. So this type of tour, I see that as a kind of investment. And you will see what is a mine or two. And maybe if this is just what you want to see, you want to go to the mine to get a photograph of you, you know, in front of the mine. You go to a conference, like you become an ICA member, you go to the ICA Congress. At the end of the ICA Congress, there is a mine tour. That's great. You go there and you make friends. And you have your photograph in a mine, and you visit some mines, and you can understand about mining. But if you want to go on a solo expedition, just don't go with people that you don't know, and go with people that you are sure of. And actually, solo expedition, I will say, I told you that, it's a little bit about dating, like dating, you know. If you go with somebody and be happy with that person, maybe you can go to the field, but you should not go to the field for 2 weeks with somebody you have never spent 2 weeks with. Yeah. And you have to see how these people are in bad situation. Are they going to blame you? Are they going to play selfish and put all the, say, oh, it's not my fault, it's this guy. Actually, you know what? I have something to say about this guy because this guy, Then, as soon as the policeman sees that, you know, this guy, the bandits, the policemen, the people who want to get something from you, they are acting like wolves and they are looking around and they smell the sheep. If there is one guy, they will smell the weakest element in the team. And I can tell you when they find this one, the weakest one, they go crazy on this guy. So if you are the weakest element, you are going to get a lot of hard time. Yeah. And most of the time, I can tell you in my team, I will not be the weakest element. It will be you, maybe. So if you are not ready for that, don't come with me. Yeah. I'm not going on organized tour. Sometimes I'm going to a place where nobody have been. I have no idea about what can happen.
Well, I know when I first, you know, when you were kind of prepping me for the trip that we went on, and you were kind of explaining all this stuff to me, but then when it was actually the day to go, you're not just going with these guests, you also have your video team. And that was one of the things that really impressed me on the trip, you know, through the whole experience, is how well you guys are documenting this whole experience. And of course we've seen, you know, what comes of it on YouTube, but where did the idea come from to start doing these sort of documentary style things for your trips?
Well, it starts with, you know, at the beginning, I was writing a lot. I was writing articles. I'm still writing quite a lot. But I found out that most of the people, you know, were coming in my team. They were telling me, oh, Vincent, we read all your articles. And then when I was starting the expedition, I started to ask questions. And then I found out that they didn't read my article. At least, you know, some of them were quite honest. And they say, yeah, Vincent, actually, you know, your article is too long, you know. I just look quickly the image and things like that, but I don't have read everything in detail. But no, I read the article, but you know, I was, your article are too long. And, you know, I don't like to read too much. So then the guy say, maybe I think you should go to videos, you know. If you make a video, I will not read the article, but I will watch the video. So you should start to do video, you know. One of the young guys say, okay, this young guy don't read. So number one, they bullshit me, and then they don't read, okay? And then I found out that it was not an isolated pattern. Most of the young people nowadays, they are not reading. So I say, okay, what can I do? I say, well, I said, well, but number one, I can keep writing articles because out of these young people, in the future, I see a whole generation of people who don't read. I think that the small percentage of people who still read will have much better chance to have a successful career in the future than the one who don't.
Yeah.
So I still write articles in order for, okay, 90% of the people will not read them. I'm very well aware of that. And many people will tell me that they have read the article, but actually they have not. So most of the people I meet will lie to me. So that's a good way to start a relationship with me. You start to bullshit me. And then you hope that I will not find out or I will forgive you. That's a good way to start. And but okay, I say, okay, I have to make a step in the direction of the young generation, especially because this guy told me, Vincent, you know what? For this expedition we'll have to East Africa it was in 2008. One of my friends just finished his cinema study in California, and it will be great, you know, if he can come in the field and he will make a documentary that will be his first documentary and that. I say, what? You want to have a cameraman coming in my team and he will make a video of what I'm doing? And then there will be a video going around and maybe, I don't know, I don't like my voice, I don't like several things, and I will look like a stupid guy, you know, and people will, no, no, I don't know this guy. Maybe he will make something like the journalists I see, they go somewhere and they, you know, you have some journalists, they search for sensational things and they will find, you know, shade in the desert. So I just don't want to have a guy for 1 month in my team and then he create a video and the video will be a disaster. Like none of the miners I met will ever want to see me again because they will see the video and they will say, you know, Vincent, I saw your video, you don't come back, you come back, I'll kill you. You know, I have a responsibility. You know, when I go to a place, I want to be able to be back. I want to be able to keep a good reputation. And at this time, I had several friends who accepted to travel with journalists and they were all F word. All F word. The journalists say, oh, you know, it will be great on that, on that, on that. They went with the journalist and the journalist, especially one, he brings some journalists in Burma at the jade mine. And then the French, that was a French journalist, she had some image about people taking drugs. And in her story, she said, well, the miners are paid with drugs. She never witnessed that. My friend said, we never saw that, but she had that in documentary and the image were given by a guy from the opposition.
Wow.
Because in her script, many journalists or many people, you know, their company sends them there and they say, okay, you go there, what will be the story? Oh, you need to have that, you need to have that. We need a sensational story about this and that and that. So they write the story before to go. And then basically they are just going there to catch the image in order to fit to the story that was written by their redaction before. And I don't accept that. When I go to the field, I do research. I cannot tell you what we will find in 3 days. So when this guy, at the end, okay, I had very little of money at this time. I was broke. I promised Richard Hughes that I will take him in Africa. Richard Hughes had no money, of course, to pay me. We were doing that. Okay, Richard is my mentor. He helped me a lot. He gave me good advice. I will take him there, but I don't have the money for the trip. So how can we do? We say, but Richard also didn't have too much money for the trip. So we say, okay, we build a team and we take as many people as we can. And then one of the guys I wanted to travel with could not travel with. Oh, shit. So suddenly, oh, we don't have enough people to pay for the car. So in my car, I was needing one more guy. And then my friend said, hey, so we can take my cameraman. So I say, yeah, but if anything happened, you know, I kill you. If anything happened, I kill you. Number one, you cameraman, I will not be super welcoming with him. I will tell him and I will make understand that if he is doing anything, you know, that I don't like, I think that we'll have some very, very bad relationship after that. So that young cameraman was a young guy called Philippe Bruno. I don't know if he's here. I told him about the thing. Is Philippe Bruno around here?
I don't see him. No, it doesn't look like it.
I told him about this webinar, but I'm looking in there. No, I don't see him.
Yeah.
Okay. So I took Philippe, and Philippe followed us for 1 month. And he had no money also. and he took a lot of images. He had a lot of funny stories, and then he started to work on his video. But he had no money to finance. I had no money. Richard Hughes had no money. So he had to get a job, and it took him 5 years to make the video. And after 5 years, he had a problem. Then after 5 years, I was at GA. I was working at GA. And then I was starting again to be able to save some money. Because from the time I went to study gemology to basically in 2001 to my time, it took me 7 years to be positive. For my first 7 years, my salary was not covering my costs. So I was losing money, and I was thinking like, oh, okay, in 2 years I'm broke, or in 1 year I'm broke. And the last 2 years I was at zero all the time. Sometimes I was borrowing $100 from one friend to go to buy some food on Friday evening, because at the end of the month I had no money on my account when I was working at Gubelin. So that was an interesting time. So it was at this period where I was working at Gubelin. Gubelin was not financing the trip. I was going with Richard Hughes. And so Philip was there, and he was working on the field. And then I moved to GA, and then at GA I started to get positive. So when he was nearly to finish the trip, I was able to send him $1,000 in order for the whole thing to be finished. So Richard also sent some money. So we sent some money, and he finished the thing. And when I watched the video, I was amazed. That was great. That was great. And the name of the movie is Follow the Zebra.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was thinking, I was damn wrong. Okay, and I remember there was a guy who was doing also some video. His name was Patrick Valo. And he told me, Vincent, I don't advise you to take any cameraman, anybody you don't know in the field, thing like that. But if one day you want to make a video, you have to travel with your own people. So when I saw the video, I said, okay, maybe there is something to do with that. So I asked to Philip, and Philip was not able to come because he was living in Canada and he was working in an IT company in Canada. And then I had another friend around, and I told him the story. He said, Vincent, I'm a photographer, but I can learn about video. If you want, if I come in your trip, I will be your cameraman. Within 2 months, we can make something. I'm tired about my job. I become your cameraman. So I was thinking, yeah, maybe, why not? How can we do that? So, and I was planning to go for 3 months in Africa, for 2 months in Africa for GA. I was planning to go to Madagascar, and then to Kenya, and then to Mozambique, and then to Tanzania. So I was thinking, maybe that will be, I could do something like Philippe Bruno #2, get a cameraman and document the whole thing. And so I asked to GA, and GA said they were not interested. So I said, okay. So they're not interested because they don't know the thing. And so I said, okay. I asked, can I do it myself? So they say, yeah, no problem. So I financed the cameraman, and all the expedition costs, all the equipment, I financed that on my own saving. And we went. And then at the meeting research from GA in 2009, when I presented the things that we did with the Field Gemology department, I said, by the way, I took a cameraman during the trip, so he made this small clip about the expedition. And when I showed that, to all the attendants, at the break just after, you had the GIA education director and the marketing director who came to see me. He said, Vincent, this is super good. I will be very interested to be as marketing or as education will be very interested to do that. So then I went to speak with Ken, and I said, marketing and education are interested in that. Can we get a budget? So Ken went to speak to Tom Moses, and then they decided that GA Lab will finance 50% and GA Education will finance 50%. So then I was able to get a budget to make this video, and this is the way we started the video at GA. So I started to travel with cameraman and document the expedition. And then after each expedition, we were transforming these hours and hours of image in a short 5-minute clip that would be used for promotion at GIA, but also as a way to thank the miner and to provide, some exposure to the miners that welcome us. Because sometimes, when you go to the field, you collect some sample. I cannot tell the miner that, there will be a nice article that will be written, in 3 months. But I could tell them that in 3 months, there will be a short video about your thing. And the video will be on YouTube. You will be able to see it. You will be able to share it with your friend and things like that. And that really helped my relationship with the miners. Because they were sometimes spending one day, 2 days, 3 days with me at the mine. So they were spending some of their time. They were helping me to get access to the mine and to get sample. But I was able to offer them some exposure. And they like it. After 3 months or 4 months, there was a short video that they could share with their customers, with their friends. And when 1 year later I was returning to the mine, they were happy to see me.
Yeah, that's cool. So then they're kind of like they're feeling a little bit like celebrity as well, because they're now on a YouTube video out on the internet.
They like it.
And so
that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah. And aside from just, the marketing and the education, it ends up being a really good tool for you as well in order to kind of record where you're getting all these stones from, right? Because you're taking the GPS, as you were saying, and
yeah, no, that's the other thing, because at this time there are some people during the meeting in a Carlsbad. So I explained, I built a system at GA where we had A-type sample, B-type sample, C-type sample, and things like that, like a reliability of the sample. But then, there is all the time a guy playing devil advocate, and he said, but how can we be sure that, for example, no, Vincent, it's not personal, we trust you, but how can we be sure that this is really a A-type, B-type, C-type, or D-type sample, that basically you're not just putting a number on the plastic bag? I say, yeah, good point. So traceability. I was asked to traceability, like in the trade, people say, oh, where is this sample coming from? Oh, it's coming from there, and the miner is nice, blah, 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 blah. So you bring a story, but then the customer thinks that this is just a story or this is true. You tell a story, but there is no proof. Me in the lab, starting in 2011, 12, I had to think about a way to prove that the sample were really from there. And some people were telling me that maybe I should consider traveling with a lawyer. Traveling with a lawyer? Oh my God. No, fun. I don't want to travel with a lawyer. And then you imagine you go with a lawyer and he make a report on everything you do, you say, and things like that. And then you travel with Big Brother all the time. And then if you do anything, that you get fired. So a lawyer? Oh my God. No. Cannot. So I was thinking a lawyer or a cameraman. And I don't like the cameraman at this time. I didn't like too much. But I was thinking that the cameraman is kind of better than the lawyer, because at least with the cameraman, we can make a video that can be shared. So the miner that we met is happy. And then, also for promotion, people in the trade who want to know what happened in this mining area and things like that, I will be able to, GA had an education mission. And then I was thinking that I would, serve the objective of GA, like spreading education about what is going on in mining area. And at the same time, producing traceability for the samples that I was collecting. So not everybody can, gem buyer can go around in the field and buy stone and provide a video of, how and where and from who we bought the sample. But basically, this is what I had to do when I was at GA.
Yeah.
I was providing that to the lab, and they have hours and hours. And I have on my desk, I have a hard drive with 24 terabytes of videos from all these expeditions.
And so most of them have ended up just being released as short videos, but the original first one, Follow the Zebra, that's almost like a full length. It's more than an hour, right? So it's kind of like
Follow the Zebra is 1 hour, and that's the longest that I ever made. Actually, Philippe Bruno made, because the other one after that, basically I was a producer, and I was discussing with my cameraman about the scenario, what we'll put inside, in order to make the video, because GA Education wanted the video to be educative. Mm-hmm. And GA Education say, Vincent, you have to make your video educative. So as long as they were educative, they were okay to finance 50%. and I could not afford not to have this 50%. So, okay. In order for the lab to have traceability, my mission was to be able to produce videos that had educative content. So GA education could use this video, you know, in a GA class. So the student were able to go to see the video about what happens there and there. So providing some content, you know, for GA education, distance education, for GA marketing also. Yeah.
And so
5 minutes.
What did you say? Oh yeah, 5 minutes.
We put the video 5 minutes because the same guys were also complaining that my video were too long. Follow the zebra is too long, and I can tell you, there is some Follow the Zebra. I think is the best video we made, the first one, and it's the best. The problem is 1 hour 7 minutes, and when I see the statistic on my YouTube, Follow the Zebra has 300 views on YouTube, and the original version that Philippe Bruno put on Vimeo has about the same. So Follow the Zebra has 6,000 views, something like that. And I have some videos about Zambia, about emerald from Zambia on my YouTube channel that are about 5 minutes long, and they have 220,000 views.
Yeah.
So, and then younger people who come to see me say, yeah, but a video 1 hour is too long.
But if people do want to see it, it's up on YouTube, right? The whole full version. If they go to your YouTube, aside from all of your other videos that you've made, there's a link to the Follow the Zebra one on there too, right? Or
there is Follow the Zebra. We put it in 2 versions. It's the only video that is in English, and then there is a French version. Because there was another story, is people in my family, some people from France, they don't speak English, so they say, Vincent, your video are great, but I don't understand them. So can you make a French version? So there was all the time a good reason number one, a good reason not to read my article because they are written in English, and then a good reason not to watch my video because they are too long and they are maybe in English. And then I found out that, okay, at the end, if I want people to read what I write, I have to go on Instagram and make something that is maximum that. Or, you know, I have to make a video that is maximum 10 minutes because if not, people will just zap.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I have to adapt to not just to the field condition, but I have to adapt to the public. So we make short videos.
Yeah, serve the audience.
And now we make webinar. Yeah,
exactly.
So
the new way, I guess. So we've spoken about some of the people that have gone on the trip. We've spoken about, you know, the camera. We've spoken about some of the danger. Let's speak a little bit about some of the stones, because of course this is the whole point, is to collect these samples and for research. Somebody had asked a little bit back, what are mostly the kind of stones that you're getting? Are they mostly ruby, sapphires, and emeralds? Or are you getting a whole range of, you know, sort of precious and semi-precious stones?
Semi-precious, I don't know that name.
Well, you know, whatever you want to call it.
You know where semi-precious is coming from?
No.
That was during Napoleon time in Europe. Napoleon was needing some money for war, and he started to decide to tax a gemstone. So the jewelers in Paris tried to negotiate, and at the end, the French government decided to tax only 4 gemstones that will be called precious: ruby, sapphire, emerald, diamond, and the other one, semi-precious, were the stones that were not taxed by the French government. Okay. Are we still at the period of Napoleon Empire? No. So why do you speak about semi-precious stone?
Wow. That was
gemstone. Some of the so-called semi-precious were small. That story was told me by Mr. Gubelin when I was at the Gubelin Lab, and he said that this is the reason why the system of semi-precious stone was brought to Switzerland, because during the Napoleonic time, France invaded Switzerland and took over Switzerland, and then you know, in many places in Europe they put the Napoleon Code, and when the French Empire collapsed and it returned to things, they kept a few things from the French laws, like the street name and the street numbers, and then precious, semi-precious. So no, there are no semi-precious stones, because some so-called semi-precious actually are more valuable than some of the low-quality precious. So
gemstones. But I mean, just in
No,
terms of what you're bringing back, though,
yeah,
are you bringing back everything, or because I know sapphire and ruby is the big one for you know what people are buying.
it depends on the place. Most of the time, my job at GIA, and even now when I'm building my reference collection, it's there are the stones that go to the lab and the stones that don't really go to lab, like GA, Gubelin, AIGS, and things like that. And the stones that go to the lab are usually color stone, like ruby, sapphire, emerald, and then sometimes spinel, sometimes alexandrite. So when you work for a lab, you have to, and you do research. Basically, if you love to do research on heat treatment of penite, that's great, but that will not help a lot the people working in production in the lab, because, for example, I will be very surprised if there is one or two penites that are submitted every year to maybe the AIGS lab in Bangkok or the GA lab in Bangkok or even Gubelin. So when you are doing research, your job is to try to solve the problem of the people working in production. Basically helps them on the stones that are submitted to the lab. So my job as a researcher is to help the people working in production. So they see mainly ruby, sapphire, emerald. They have issue with treatments. They have issue with origin. So my job was to go to collect, sample in the field in order for them to be able to have some materials that they were sure were unheated and they were sure were coming from this place or that place. Now, that said, when I was going, for example, to places like Vietnam or to Madagascar, when you go to Vietnam or Madagascar, and you go to a ruby or sapphire mining area, there are many of these rubies and sapphires that are coming from secondary deposit. And under paddy field, like also in Sri Lanka, in Ilakak, and when they found ruby and sapphire associated with many other stones, you may have spinel, you may have tourmaline, you may have topaz, you may have garnet, you may have zircons. So when I bring back stone in the lab or in my collection, I don't just take the ruby, the sapphire, and the emerald and throw away all the rest. No, I bring everything.
Yeah.
And also sometimes the associated stone. And now, when I go to a place where, for example, in Tanzania or in Kenya, I was going in Kenya to see the ruby mine, for example, in Tsavo. And just near the ruby mine in Tsavo, you have a tsavorite mine, and you have also a yellow tourmaline mine. So I was traveling with a young guy, and this young guy loved green color. So he told me, "Oh, Vincent, we are going to see the ruby mine, but it would be great if we can see also some tsavorite mine at the same time." So, okay, let's meet a tsavorite miner. So we went to meet Campbell Bridges. And then we end up visiting all the tsavorite mine in the area, or nearly. And then when we went to Tanzania, he said, "Hey, Vincent, there is a Tanzanite mine, and they have also tsavorite there." So we went again visiting tsavorite, and then we went to Umba. Oh, there is also tsavorite in Umba. So we went to see the tsavorite in Umba. So basically, JB, he diverted my trip that was focused on ruby and sapphire, and we ended up visiting all the tsavorite mine in the area. And then we went also to see the emerald mine in Maniera. So you have to adapt. Sometimes you have somebody in your team, he was paying his part of the expedition. And his pleasure was also, because he loved emerald and he loved tsavorite, he loved green color stone, he wanted to visit this mine, and they were just few hours distance from the other one. So I said, okay, we have time. Let's go to visit the tsavorite mine. Maybe AIGS don't care too much, but who knows? Maybe in 10 years or 20 years, it will be nice to have some nice tsavorite sample in the collection. And actually, it was great, because thanks to that, few years later, there was Gaston Giuliani, who I met during geologists. He's a geologist, one of the most famous geologists on a gemstone deposit. I met him in Paris in a congress, and he told me, "Vincent, I'm starting to do, there will be one of my students who will start to do a PhD on a tsavorite. I know that you went to visit some tsavorite deposit. Do you have some samples?" So I say, "Yeah, I have some samples in my private collection. I have quite a lot of samples, because I went actually to visit nearly all the tsavorite mine in Kenya, Tanzania, and also in Madagascar. So I provided him all these sample of tsavorite, and that were used as the background for the PhD of Julien Fénerol, who then they study the savorite sample and they identified which mine were really interesting. And then Julien went to focus on the mine that were, of the #1 interest. And he finished his PhD, and it was great. And it was based on, the background work was done on the samples that I collected. And then they isolated the interesting place, and he was able to do that. And that was the starting of my collaboration with Gaston. And we are currently, I'm working on 2 articles with Gaston. So since 2007, for about 13 years, thanks to the young guy who divert my expedition and bring me to visit a savorite mine and things like that, I have started a great collaboration with Gaston. So you see, you go around visiting mine in 2005, you don't really have a need, but 5 years later, you have the sample. These samples are useful for something that will be, the start of a great, professional collaboration. So yeah, I'm collecting everything. And if sometime, you remember the rule of Field Gemology, if you have enough time, oh, there is a new deposit there, something, 1 day, 2 days distance. Okay, we have some time, let's go there. 2 marine mines there. Oh, we have what should we do? We should go to the beach or visit a national park, or we take 2 or 3 more days and we go to visit 1 more mine. Okay, let's go to visit a tourmaline mine, or let's go to visit that. Who knows? Maybe we find something interesting. Yeah. So all the time I'm filling up my time. When I prepare my expedition, I schedule a bit wide. And if there are opportunities nearby, I go.
Well, I remember whenever we were coming back from the Ratanakiri trip, and we did do a little side stop and visited that mine that had all the quartz, and that lady that was putting together all the weird amethyst.
Oh yeah, the amethyst mine.
Yeah, and they were constructing, basically they were making geodes out of crystals with glue.
We saw a kind of a place where they were gluing a crystal together in order to make geode. That was fun. Yeah. And the mine was not easy to find. We heard the story, and there was an amethyst deposit on the site. Okay, we say, okay, we have time. We left early in the morning, and we stopped to this amethyst deposit. And when we arrived, I remember the guys were just gluing all the samples together in order to make a big geode. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was strange. So I know you sort of hinted at this the other day in the talk with Rui, and it kind of piqued my interest as a gem cutter. You were speaking about once these samples come back to the lab, they're not ready yet for the research team to do their job because they need to be prepared by the lapidary process. So speak a little bit more about that. What does it entail to get the rough stone ready for, all the tests that you guys have to do in the lab from the lapidary point of view?
Yeah, that's true. Well, it depends. For example, when I go to the field, I found a rough stone. In order to have when you work in a lab, we work with advanced instrumentation. There are UV visible spectroscopy, you have FTR spectroscopy, and then trace element chemistry. Regarding spectroscopy, we had at the GIA, there was a guy, a consultant, who was checking all the quality of the scientific work done at GIA. And we were working mainly on ruby and sapphire, and he said, well, spectra like FTR and Raman, they are not the same depending the orientation of the specimen, because you have some peaks in Raman and in infrared that are dichroic. So if you look at a corundum in the direction of the c-axis, maybe there will be a peak that will be visible. But if you check the corundum 90 degrees from the c-axis, the peak will not exist. So if you want to make a spectra, a reference spectra, you have to know the direction where you do the study. So he said, okay, we have to set up data collection. So actually, when we do research in gemology, field gemology is just the beginning of a chain. And actually, this is, from what I see, probably the cheapest and the easier part of the whole thing is field gemology. People think that this is dangerous and things like that. I don't think so. Well, okay, sometimes some story happen, but okay. But actually, when you think about it, you collect the sample. Then when you have collected a sample, you have to catalog them. You have to put them in a system and things like that, collect all the information. And then you have to fabricate them in order to make sure that when you check a corundum, if you want to compare rubies from 20 mining areas with each other, you have to make sure that they are all orientated the same. So you fabricate the sample as a wafer, and they are all orientated in the same direction. So like that, you will be able to compare the spectra of stone number 1 with stone number 2, stone number 3, stone number 4, stone number 5, stone number 6.
And so you guys are prepping the samples, fabricating the samples in the same way that we, you know, cut and polish stones for jewelry, right? Like you're using the same types of, you know, not specifically, but like you're cutting and polishing just the same way that I would facet a stone.
Well, except when we are more doing like a ham, you know, we are cutting them in slice.
Yeah, but I mean, but they need to be
Especially
polished in
rubies,
the same way that...
rubies, we are cutting them sometimes in very thin slice, because the rubies, there is many instruments in spectroscopy have a dynamic range. So, for example, if the sample is too thick, then the numbers you get are not valid anymore. So you have sometimes to turn the piece of rough into very thin wafers. And they need to have the right orientation with no more than 1 degree off to the c-axis. And then they need to have no wedge. So the two polish windows have to be perfectly parallel. So at the beginning, I was, okay, I say, well, no problem. I will fabricate my sample, no problem. Because when I studied gemology in Myanmar, I studied gemology for 3 months in Myanmar, and then every morning I was studying gemology, and every afternoon I was cutting stones. I was not very good at that, because I'm not very good at doing all the time the same thing in one day. I like to have some change in my thing. I have too much a side interest. So that was, I started to fabricate sample in the lab. We had a machine came, I started to try to cut that. And actually it was super time consuming. And I say, you know, and Ken look at that, he said, Vincent, you cannot do everything yourself. You have to learn to delegate. Okay, so why don't you hire a lapidary? Somebody you know will do that. Okay, what are the requirements? We need somebody with a master in science who can speak English good so he can communicate with John Emmett. Oh my God. So we could not find anybody with a master in science. A local tile lapidary, I don't know many who speak English. So we could not find anybody, and for 2 months, 3 months, I could not find any good candidate. So people from university, nobody wanted to work as a lapidary. It was a little bit complicated. We asked we get very few things. But there was a young guy who was traveling with me, a former boxer. He was a professional boxer. And this guy was speaking about 7 languages. And he was very organized, and sometimes he didn't like when I say that, but a little bit autistic, you know, he was, and he wanted to work with me in gemology, and as a field gemologist. I say, as a field gemologist, you are, yeah, you speak 7 languages, that's not bad. And then he was saying, but you know, Vincent, if you give me a chance, you know, I will do a good job and things like that. And then I was thinking, I said, can you learn about gem cutting? Say, yeah, I can learn if I'm given a chance, you know, I can learn. So I say, okay. I found a friend who had a thing. I said, can you train this guy for 1 week doing gem cutting? And then I asked him, okay, I found a guy. I think he's not really a professional cutter, but he has a good profile. You know, he has a potential he can spend 8 hours, you know, training and doing that and that. So, okay, so you can say, okay, let's try. We give him a 3 months, like an internship. And we tried the guy, and within a few weeks, he was able to do a very good job. So then we sent the sample to Carlsbad, and they were not good enough. They were putting the level of polish at, we could not, we had to change the machine, we had to buy a new machine, we have to find, you know, all the right thing in order to have an optimal quality polish. Because when you have some scratch line on the side of the surface of the sample, it absorbs light. So the wedge had to be absolutely perfect. So we're needing, you know, basically a machine with a laser aligning in order to be able to perfectly align the sample with less than 1 degree off to the c-axis. Then we were needing to have to cut the sample and to get a perfect polish. Perfect polish. With we had some master stones that John Emmett fabricated, and he said, if the sample is worse than that, this is not acceptable.
Okay, so you needed somebody then who was going to be an expert in.
Yeah, and patient enough and willing to get the result. It took us 8 months to get everything okay. And then we were able to polish samples that were, you had somebody, a gemologist that was trained by John Emmett from New York, who came in Bangkok and who checked the quality of all the sample polish. And after 8 months, John Emmett and that gemologist, her name was Emily, they say, yeah, Jonathan is doing great work. But then it was not quick enough because he was not doing a sample, you know, he was doing about 1 sample per day. So we had to find a way to increase the thing. And Jonathan was complaining that he was never really trained, and you know, he's not at the beginning a prophet, and he was, you know, at this point, at the beginning, the pressure was on me because I had to get the sample. Everybody wanted to get the sample. And then when I bring a lot of samples, the pressure was on Jonathan because why is the damn guy is not cutting the sample quick enough? You know, you can get cutters in the street, and I don't understand why there is only 1 sample per day. So the pressure was on him for 8 months. You know, he was hammered like, why don't you do that good enough and quick enough? So at the end, I said, okay, maybe we should get some help. And in France, one of my talk, and that young girl came to see me and said, oh, after the talk, is it possible to come to travel with you? I look at her, young French girl, about 21 years old. I say, well, maybe, but you know, number one, I don't travel with people that I don't know. And then why you want to travel with me? And say, oh, because there's that and that. And say, well, I don't know, send me a resume and I will see what I can do. And then she sent me her resume. And then I saw on her resume, that girl was a lapidary for 7 or 8 years in Switzerland. And then I had Jonathan complaining that he had nobody to train him. I said, okay, maybe there is something. So I went to see Ken. I said, Ken, I have a professional lapidary in Geneva who would like to go to the field. Can we provide her an internship? And for, let's say, for 3 months, we take her, and she will have to find a way to increase the quality and the quantity of samples that we produce. Is that okay? Can we do that? Yeah, Ken said yes. So I told this young lady that she could, if she wanted, okay, I provide her an internship at the GA lab, and her job was to improve the speed. She had to learn the way Jonathan was doing for 2 months, and then for 1 month, her job was to propose me a way to improve the speed of the sample fabrication. And her name was Victoria. You know her very well because she's your wife now. You sniped my girl. You sniped my my lapidary. Yeah. And since then, it's about now. Yeah, she worked with me at GA for many years, and she did a great job fabricating the sample. And then when Ken left, and when I left, and then she followed us in Bahrain. And she did a great job fabricating sample in Bahrain, and now she's back in Bangkok living with you.
So I guess it kind of goes around, you know, because we started talking about the personnel, you know, and you were saying all the connections that you've made with some of the people that you've gone on trips with, and even like now 10 years later, you know, you can still enjoy like the memory of that and whatever. And now two of the people that you took out into the field ended up, you know, because you introduced us, and then now we've gotten married. So
there are others. There are others. I didn't have just the guys who were asking drugs, you know, to the policeman. I had also a lot of great ones. There is Lupier and Andrea. You know, Lupier sniped Andrea in one of my trips.
Yeah.
You know, No, there are several people who get, you know, they travel in the field with me, and then they found somebody, and then at the end they get married together.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But so it sounds like, you know, the whole origin determination and the whole research project that you guys have been working on, and all the labs that you've been, it's a ton of work aside from what we see in the videos. And then there's you know, all this fabrication work, and then there's all the data collection, you know, through the advanced testing. This is a huge, long project that you know, that's,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a huge project because, as I say, it's like a chain. And actually, collecting the sample is easy. Then you have fabrication, and then you have data collection. To do data collection, you know, when Victoria came, she found a way to fabricate sample quicker. So then it was not anymore, you know, before it was the people who were working research gemologists, they say, oh, we want sample quicker. So they put a lot of pressure on Jonathan. And then Victoria came, and she was able to find a way to fabricate the sample much quicker. Like sometimes she was able to do 20 samples per day. She increased the speed of fabrication of the sample from 1 per day to, as an average, because there was some day maintenance, there was that, to more than 10 samples per day on an average.
Yeah.
Then the problem went to the instrumentation. People collecting data, doing Raman, collecting identification of inclusion photography, analyze chemical trace element analysis with LAIC-PMS. And then we found out that, you know, the research gemologists then were doing, you know, when with the level of quality that they were asked by John Emmett, then the focus was on them. And Pooh, Dr. Sipawara Sangsawong, he was the guy that was under HPHC. After me, it was Jonathan. After Jonathan, it was Victoria. After Victoria, it was him, because he get heat and pressure, because he had to provide data as quick as possible. And the quality of the data had to be perfect. And actually, I realized that, you know, the whole thing, the most difficult thing is data collection, to make sure that the data is perfect. But to make sure that the data is perfect, you need first to have the right sample that is really coming from that mine, that was really unheated. Then you need to have the fabrication correct. And then if you have the right equipment, that you have to be sure that the equipment is, you know, enabling you to collect data at the quality required for the whole thing. And then you do the collection. And that's super time consuming. And when you see that LAIC-PMS costs maybe sometime $500,000 or $600,000 for one machine, and then you have to hire a guy with a PhD to run it, plus a technician, plus you need to have argon gas on the maintenance, and you need to have a special room with moisture that cannot go higher than that. And there is a cost every month to maintain the instrument.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is super expensive. And actually, I found out that field gemology is not the most expensive part of the thing, and it's not also the most difficult part of the trip.
Yeah, maybe it's the cheapest part.
Because this is the part I like. I will not want to do the work that Pooh is doing. I have a lot of admiration for the work he's doing. I will not be able to do his job, and he told me that he could not do my job. So we still work as a team, and I could not do the job that Victoria is doing. Victoria has such a patience, you know, to fabricate sample. I cannot do that, but she can do. So we work as a team. And then you have to pass all this information to the people working in production. So we have to build a database that is user friendly and things like that. And this is another kind of challenge. So you see, it's a whole chain.
Yeah. And that kind of ties into a question that somebody had asked. Once you do finally have all this information that you've been looking for, who has access to it? Like, you know, you built a very big collection over many years with GIA, but does only GIA have access to that information, or do all the big labs have it, or is it just through the research papers that you guys publish, or how does that work in terms of dissemination of information?
Well, number one, we publish papers. When we were at GA, when I was at GA, we were publishing papers, you know, and GA researchers are working on things, they publish papers. And then GA is part of an organization that's called LMHC, Laboratory Manual Harmonization Committee, which basically GA people are discussing with people from other labs like Gubelin, SSCF, GAT, DGEM in Germany, CGEM, and things like that. And this lab are discussing in order to harmonize things, especially regarding nomenclature. So there are some collaborations. Sometimes GA is collaborating with some labs, some other thing. I saw that when there was, for example, the period where you had the barium treatment for 2 times barium treatment at the beginning, and then the barium treatment with blue sapphire. I saw. This time I was the director from AIGS, and there was a meeting where several labs were together to discuss about how we do this treatment and try to harmonize, okay, how are you doing to detect the thing and things like that. So they share data, but yes, they have a way to do that. But basically, the thing is, there is lab and lab. There are labs and labs. You have everybody can open a lab. There is no regulation about who can open a lab or not. You don't even need a gemologist in the lab to open a lab. You open a lab, you say it's a lab, and the lab is a company that has customers.
Yeah.
So are all the lab collaborating with each other? When I was director from AIGS, there were some labs. They were, you know, there was the leg glass treatment starting, and they say, no, this is not leg glass filling. This is just, you know, oiling. And he said that was total bullshit. How can you communicate with a guy who is lying all the time, who is just trying to make something that, because we were saying, you know, at this point, I realized something about labs. When I was at the AIGS, and that was the first paper I issued as for AIGS. My first gemology paper, a really big one, was this paper about leg glass treatment, where I went to meet the burner, and I photographed the whole process, and I explained the whole process of how the treatment is done, and then I explained how to detect it. And then in the lab, we started to issue a report like leg glass field ruby. Before, you know, as soon as I started to put leg glass field ruby on the report, I can tell you, nobody was bringing stone anymore in the lab. Because with leg glass field ruby on the report, nobody wanted to buy the thing. Now, if you had, if like the other lab, the guy who was telling me that this is oiled, you say just heated ruby or oil ruby, you can sell it.
Yeah.
So the dealers were going to bring the stone to the lab who was writing on the paper the things that help them to sell, not the lab like us. We make the research on leg glass, we publish it, and suddenly we lose all our customers because they say, oh, what you're writing on your lab report, you know, with that we cannot sell the stone. Yeah. So the seller, at this time, I found out that, okay, the guy who brings the stone in the lab, they know that the stone are leg glass fields, they just want a paper to help them selling the stone and maybe to try to cheat their customers.
Yeah. Well,
so can you really collaborate with the lab who help, you know, a dealer to cheat their customer?
Yeah.
No. So there are labs and labs. So there are labs who can, they have the same type of people inside that are honest. They have machine. They are actually checking the stone. And when they see something, they say that on the report. And there are some labs, they are lab by name, but actually they are just a business helping sometimes some people to do funny things.
Yeah. And so I know from talking to you in previous times, you know, you've been doing these trips now for a long time, more than 10 years. And I think not only has it sort of further developed your appreciation of gemstones, but it's also kind of taken you to some other aspects of nature that you maybe didn't focus on so much before. And I know two of the things that you've told me before are, you know, this sort of newer, maybe it's old, I don't know for you, but this interest in conservation, and also this new thing with the gem paintings that you did the video for last year. So how has your trips kind of opened your eyes in terms of, you know, the people, culture, animals, nature, the things that you've been able to see firsthand?
Well, let's say with conservation, it's quite easy. You know, I was born and I was educated in countryside France. So in the middle of nature, I like nature. I spent my childhood going in the forest and things like that, and I enjoy nature. So somewhere my dream job was something that combines science, traveling, and nature. So field gemology combines science and traveling. So, you know, and what is great with gemology is that when I go to some mining areas, I see also nature on the way. Like the first time I went to Kenya, we went to visit the Tsavo area where you have the Johnson Ruby mine, which is located inside the national park. And we went to the Johnson Ruby mine, and we went to visit the mine. And then at the end of the day, the visit was finished. And then we took our car and we returned to the camp that was also, we were staying at this time at the Aqua mine inside the park. Our base camp was in one of the mines that have enough room for us to stay. And the owner of the mine was nice enough to allow us to stay at the mine. That was a few kilometers from the Johnson mine. So we left the Johnson mine to go there, and it was dusk. And we, just near the Johnson mine, you have a kind of artificial lake that is used, you know, to have water at the mine. And at this period, it was very dry in the whole area. And just when we were passing near the lake, we saw going out, you know, emerging from the bush, there was a pride, a pack of elephants, about 150 elephants went out from the bush in order to go to that lake that was about 100 meters from us. And they crossed the road. So we were stopped for 1 hour because of 150 elephants that came out from the bush. And just out 500 meters outside of the Johnson Ruby mine. I never saw that. I never saw that again, even visiting National Park. I never saw 150 elephants, you know, with some big tuskers, you know, long tusks and things like that, all red elephant with a red dust at sunset coming to drink. It was just wonderful. Wow. So I saw, you know, that day I went to visit a ruby mine, one of the most famous ruby mines in the world, with a very interesting story. I was able to see the geology, see some sample on site, and then we left the thing. And at sunset, when a beautiful African sunset, you know, with orange kind of paparacha sky, and then you see this 150 elephant red with the dust and walking in the dust and going to drink. That was paradise.
Yeah.
So that, you know, and that was quite emotive. And then the next day, because of JB who was with me, we went to see Campbell Bridges. And Campbell Bridges was a Scottish miner, and he was also a conservationist. So he was the one who named Tsavorite after Tsavo National Park, because so naming a stone after a national park, this is some kind of crazy idea. This is great, because somewhere I was thinking, maybe you can use a stone in order to promote and to support conservation, because you have a stone, it's named after a national park, and then somebody maybe can sell Tsavorite and say, thanks to Tsavorite, I will send some money to a conservation program near Tsavo. And Campbell Bridges, during the time where there was a lot of poaching, he was basically, him and several miners were helping the scouts and the anti-poaching in order to protect the elephant in the area. So to have gem mines that were on the side of conservation, legal gem mine, were able to provide, you know, logistics for the rangers who were trying to protect the elephant. So I saw in Tsavo that basically gem mining and conservation could work together. But at this time, it was, when Campbell Bridges did that, it was in the 1970s. At this time, nobody cared about conservation. There was no global warming, and people don't care about that. Yeah. But in 2009, when I went to that ruby mine in Mozambique, and then I got a gun on my face, because actually the ruby deposit was inside the Nyasa National Reserve. And the reason why we spent 3 days under detention is that in the Nyasa National Reserve, mining is not allowed. It's an area that is dedicated to conservation. Yeah. And things are protected. And people were telling me that basically that was a problem. And I say, okay, yes. And then I wanted to visit the deposit. So I could not visit the deposit on that time in August. Then I got in contact with the people the head of the national park. I sent them some email. I get the email when we were freed after 3 days. I sent them an email, and then I asked them, can I go to visit the deposit? I'm not your enemy. I'm not, you can go to see my website. You can see who I am, what I'm doing. And they allow me to come back in Mozambique. And then I went to Maputo to visit the head of the national park and discuss with them for 2 days. And then they allow me to go there. So I returned to Nyassa. And then at this time, the guy who detained me, you know, in August, 2 of these guys were still there, and they were my escort, and they were able. Their job was to take me, you know, to the mine. And I went to visit the mine with some of the guys who detained me, you know, about 2 months ago. So that was quite fun. And then I was discussing with a guy from the national park, and and they say, Vincent, you know, the problem we have is in the national park, we have no idea about gem mining. This is something new for us, and so far, this is a very big threat for conservation, because they found out that the miners, okay, they are busy digging, but miners need food. So you had at the same time, you had some poachers that were coming around, and they were going around and they were shooting at buffalo and antelope in order to provide bushmeat to the miners. So with 1,000 miners coming there, you had about 20 people that came and started a business of bushmeat in order to feed the 1,000 miners, and shooting all the buffalo and all the antelope and the zebra around. So all the wildlife went away. So with the miners, as mining was illegal, you had also poachers who were hiding within the miner, and you were using the 1,000 miner as, you know, when you have 5 or 6, you know, scouts from the national park, what can they do against 1,000 miners? So the poachers were hiding with the miners. So when the rangers were following them, then they found the trace of the miner and the mining village. They cannot find the poachers. The poachers were hiding among the mining community, feeding the mining community, and the police was not going there. So they had to call the army, and they make a big thing, and they expose everybody. But you know, what was the problem? And I understand the type of problems they were. So they asked me, I wanted to go to visit the deposit. So I visited the deposit in Nyassa. But then there was the other deposit in Montepuez that was not in the reserve, that was outside. But the people in charge of the deposit didn't want me to go there because it was too dangerous. You had miners that were all illegal, and they were fighting with each other. You had, during the 2 period I was there, I went to see the mining officer, and the mining officer twice told me, Vincent, you cannot go there. And he showed me the article. He said, you see this photograph? And I saw a burned car with a burned body. Say, yesterday, there were 2 people who got killed because you had group of illegal miners fighting with each other in order to control the area that was interesting, that were financed by dealers that were hiding in town. And one group of dealers financing a group of illegal miners, another group of dealers, and each guy, you know, hiring policemen for security. And then you had several times, you had battles between a group of illegal miners shooting at each other with policemen on both sides.
Wow.
So they say, I don't want a foreign guest to go there, and I cannot make sure that you will be safe. So I say, how can I do? So I failed twice to go to Montepuez in August, and I failed again in September 2009. So then I say, okay, how can I do? And then I remember about something, because Richard Hughes asked me again, Vincent, it would be great if we can do there, go there together. So I say, okay, I can bring Richard with me, and but we have to find a trick. So I asked the people from Nyassa, do you have some connection around Montepuez? Because I really want to go to visit the new deposit in Montepuez. So I say, Vincent, we have a congress of the reserve in Pemba in December. And actually the place where you had the ruby deposit at Montepuez, it was a private game reserve. So basically you had the hunters going there. So the guy in charge of the thing will be at the congress. So they say, the guy in charge who has the mining license, who has the place where, because the deposit was discovered on a hunting estate that was belonging to a business belonging to General Pachimwapa. So when they saw the mining starting, they went to the thing and they took the mining license for the place where they had this hunting estate. And they say, the guy will be there. So if you come, maybe what we can do is you come, you give a talk to everybody, to all the people from Nyassa about ruby mining, about the ruby trade, so people will be able to know which kind of threat they are facing. And then if you do that, we will introduce you to the gentleman who is there. And if you give a good talk, maybe he will look at your talk and then maybe he will be interested to take you there. I say, okay, that sounds good. Then what is the plan B? If that doesn't work, I say, okay, I'll bring Richard Hughes. Because Richard Hughes, he wrote Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah.
So you understand the thing about preparation. When you think about how to prepare an expedition, number one, you need to make sure that you will be in a place where you can give a talk and the guy who has the owner of the mine thinking that, should I let this guy come at my mine or no? Okay, so you get some friends, your friends introduce you there. So I go to give the talk, and then how to convince the guy about that. So I was thinking I will bring Richard, because Richard was on the way to write a new version of Ruby and Sapphire. So and already it helped us a lot in Tajikistan. We were able to visit the Ruby mine because Richard was there. He had Ruby and Sapphire, and he was able to show to the guy, to the governor of Badakhshan, that the chapter about Tajikistan was basically 2 or 3 lines. So if we were able to visit the mine, there will be a nice chapter about Tajikistan, some nice photographs, and that will be good for the image of Tajikistan in the gem community and in the world, so it will be good for the country. So by allowing us to go there, he will serve his country, it will be good, and things like that. And it worked. We were able to visit the Ruby mine and always the Spindle mine. So I was thinking, okay, what we did in 2006 in Tajikistan, we can do it again in Mozambique. So I told Richard to come with me, and Richard said, oh, I have a friend, he wants to come also, Mark Smith, an American gem dealer. So we went together, 3 people, because it's safer with 3 people. Again, the same story. It's safer with 3 people. We went there. And then finally, the guy who had the mining license in the area, he listened to the talk, and then the last day of the conference, day number 4, when I was nearly desperate, I said, oh shit, I will fail a 3rd time visiting this Montepuez Ruby mine. He called us. I knew people from the family of General Pachinwapa because the miner that I met in Nampula in Mozambique knew them. So he introduced me to the son, but the father, I discussed with the son 2 or 3 times, and he was trying to convince his father, but the father and the manager were not really feeling very well with me coming to visit. I had my website, Richard Hughes website, and so after 3 days, they accepted to have a meeting. So we had a 20-minute meeting. At the end of the meeting, he had Ruby and Sapphire in front of him. He looked at me and he said, okay, tomorrow I take you there.
So it worked.
It works. Thanks to Richard, thanks to the book. And then we gave him the book. When we left, Richard gave him the book. So the next day, we spent 2 days visiting the mine. We were able to go to the mine. We were the first foreigner to visit the Montepuez Ruby mine. It was in 2009, long time before Gemfields to come, because actually Gemfields acquired the deposit because they read my report. Wow. And then they also spoke with somebody in the trade, but they read my report and they say, oh, okay, that looks interesting. And then they spoke to some people in the trade and who told about the same thing. And then they decided to go to see the owner and make them an offer and buy, make a partnership with them. But they did that in 2011, but we went in 2009. And then we visited the place. We were able, it was amazing. There were rubies, 1 carat on the floor, 2 carat, because at this time, the small scale miners were there. For them, everything that was less than 1 gram was nothing.
Wow.
So you had people with bags of 25 kilograms of material. I remember in Pemba, I was meeting, in the market. In the market, you had West African grocers, people from Senegal, people from Mali, and they were selling stuff that they were going to China and coming back with clothes, and they were selling vegetables or stuff like that. And I said, you have stone? And they said, oh yeah, come. And they opened a fridge. In the fridge, you had a bag of rice, and the bag of rice was full of rubies. You had about a bag of 50 kilos of rice that was full of rubies. I think it was probably 150 kilos of rubies.
Wow.
And they were not the only one. You had 5 or 6 guys like that with that. And then you had a guy who bring me, you know, a stone that was 10 karat rough. And he was thinking that, you know, I bought this stone from a guy, said, it's too clean, I think it's a synthetic. I look at the stone, I check with my Darfy loop, it was a natural stone. That's the first time I saw a 10 karat clean, gemmy, natural stone in a mine. That was the first time, I never saw that before. So I say, if there is one stone like that coming randomly to a guy like me that look like nothing, I'm not known as a dealer who can buy expensive stone. And then I say to the guy, how much do you want for the stone? 10 karat ruby, clean, beautiful color, very nice shape, you know, like a rectangular, like that, but high, not too flat, great stuff. He wanted $5,000.
Total.
Yeah.
Wow.
We check our money, we had 3. We were 4. The same guy who got detained. I was still with JB, with Loupier, and with Stéphane Jacquat. And we had, it was the end of the trip. We had only $3,000. And the guy was not willing to go down 4,000. So we were not able to make a deal, and he left. And
that was your
I'm still thinking about that. A ruby like that, 10 karat, clean. I could have bought it at $4,000, you know, at the time when this whole stuff started. That would have been the best reference sample in the whole GA reference collection.
Yeah. Well, a couple people asked, what was it like working with Campbell Bridges and, like, you know, just interacting with him?
I never worked with him, but I went to visit his mine one time. That was it was just a great day because somebody with the knowledge of Campbell, spending a full day at his mine, visiting the Scorpion mine, going underground and things like that. And then he took me to another mine of one of his friends who had a lot of problems because he was every night he was attacked by illegal miners who were coming, entering his tunnel, sabotaging his machines and things like that. So I learned a lot with Campbell because I learned something very important. You know, Campbell was assassinated in when I went to visit the Mozambique ruby mine in 2009. My plan was to visit Mozambique, and after Mozambique was going to Tanzania. After Tanzania, I was supposed to go to see Campbell Bridges in Kenya, but he was assassinated in August. Just as we were going to Mozambique, Campbell was assassinated. So then we were not able to find a way to go to the place because there was a police investigation. The whole place was not, we failed going to Kenya and to visit Savoria in September and in August, end of August or end of September after the Campbell assassination. But the reason why he was assassinated is very simple. And his son, Bruce, we speak regularly. Bruce is a good friend. And I saw, and I met Campbell several times after the visit to the mine. It's jealousy. The main danger that miners are facing is jealousy. One of my friends in Burma was telling me one thing very simple about the gem trade, about the gem industry. Miners are afraid to speak and dealers tell stories. And many times when I was going to Burma, I visited some mine and I saw some great stuff. And the miner said, Vincent, don't say that you get some sample, but don't say they're coming from my mine. Because I don't want people to think that my mine is good. Because in Burma, the mining license is 3 years. At the end of every 3 years, your mining license is put in auction and somebody can, you know, if he has more money than you, he can get, you know, your place. That was at this time. Now the system changed, but at this time, you have a mining license for 3 years. So if there is a drug lord, a guy with a lot of money who thinks that your mine is good, after you build the mine, you start to have a good mine, and then you are out. You lose your mine. So many people who are mining, the most important thing for them is he don't want to have exposure. He don't want people to know that his mine is good. In Africa, I found something else, like the story with John Saul, the story with Campbell Bridges. when you are small or big, when you are a miner, and when you are successful, you become a target. Because there will be a greedy, maybe mafia gang around, you know, some bandits, and they say, oh, this guy has a lot of money, he has a ruby mine, he's probably be a millionaire. So then they will try to find a way to, oh, you know, you come to see you, mafia style, and they will send you a few guys who will start to beat your staff when they were coming back home, and then they say, well, you know, maybe you need some protection. We can, I can bring you some protection. You start to create trouble, and then you come to sell protection service. Or then you have maybe you know, an official, a policeman who want, he say, you know, you're a foreigner, you are here, you know, in my place. I think we should become partners. If you say no, oh, you don't want to become partner? You know, you should, because if not, you will maybe not be able to stay very long here. And then he send you some mafia guys, some problem, and things like that. And this is what happened to Campbell. Mm. Campbell was assassinated because people wanted to take his mine. So when you are small, and I visit many mines around in Savo and in other places, and sometimes, you know, you have some mine in Africa, they look like you have a lot of rusted machine, you have rusted equipment, the miners are dressed like beggars. I say, why don't you make your mine look good? You know, your miner, maybe it would be better if they have good equipment. I say, no, I don't want. If I, you know, put them with nice new clothes and a good equipment, people will think that I have money, that I'm rich. And then bandit will come, problem will come. And even maybe my cousin, my uncle will ask me for money, my family. I don't want to become the target of the whole region. So when you are small or big, if you are successful in the gem business, in the gem mining in Africa, you become a target. I was thinking, you know, Gemfields is a big company. There are many people who will love to kick them out in order to mine the place, because before 2012, Gemfield was not there, and you had many people making money with this stone. And these people, some of them will be very happy Gemfields to be kicked out. So you are small or you are big, there will be jealous people, and they will try everything to kick you out. So for me, I have a lot of respect for all miners, big or small, because it's not easy. You know, number one, it's not easy to mine. It's not easy to make the mine profitable. And when you make your mine successful, it's not easy to deal with the jealousy of other people who will want to kick you out in order to get your place.
Yeah.
So it's a tough job.
It's hard.
And many people don't think about that, how to deal with success when you are a gem miner. If you are successful, how can you survive your success?
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive to being a businessman. You think success means you're going to do great, but it could mean other things as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to
that's why the model of fair trade is kind of difficult, because if, you know, for your marketing and things like that, you want to show that the mine is good, that the children of the miners are going to school, they have pretty uniform, the miners have a helmet and things like that, you're putting a target on the miners.
Yeah.
You give them exposure, you kill them. Or you might kill them if there are some problem in the local community, if there are some problem around. So it's very difficult, it's very dangerous, in my opinion, to, especially when they are small, to promote a small miner, because most of the time you put him in danger. And this is what my local contact regularly tell me. They say, Vincent, no, I don't want to appear too much on the video and things like that, because several times, I remember one time where in Windsor in 2008, we went to visit, there was a rush, there was about 6,000 miners going in the bush. And then when we arrived there, we met one guy that I met already before in another mining area in Songea. And we had a big of dinner, and he was the head of the village, the boss of the village. And this guy, we had a big of dinner with him, and then he went, he said, okay, at the end of your dinner, you come to my place and you sign on the book, so you will be officially registered in the village, everything will be okay. So he was happy to see us because he was one of the guys. We made a powwow for 2 hours in Songea with him. So he remembered us. That was good. I didn't remember him, but he remembered me because I was looking like funny with my hat and everything. So that was good. And then during the dinner, we heard that there was a lot of mess, that maybe some people were beating each other. There was a woman crying and shouting. There were some plates that were broken. So, okay, there is a kind of fight between in a family or something like that. And we were with a policeman, and the policeman said, "Don't move here. You stay here. This is not your problem. Don't do anything. It's okay. It's a mining village. People are getting drunk. It's the evening. Thing happen." Yeah. So we had a policeman escort with us because 6,000 people in a mining village in the evening, when you have 20 to 50% of the people getting drunk, it's a little bit like a junkie funny. Yeah? So after finish the dinner, we went with the policeman to go to the head of the village to sign the register. And we found that his house was in a total mess. There was plate broken everywhere. He was not there. The door was broken. All the furniture was broken. He was not there. So we look at that. And then suddenly, out of the darkness, because it was night, you had a big guy coming, pushing me. And then the policeman was looking in the house what was happening, searching for the head of the village. And the big guy jumped on the policeman and started to beat him on the floor. My local guy was with us. He saw that. And he was thinking that the whole thing will turn into a disaster. So he said, okay, we leave and we return to the police camp because we were staying at the police camp. And at the police camp, when we arrived, we saw my friend, the head of the village, with his wife, you know, the face like a balloon and bleeding and things like that. And they were beaten. Why they were beaten? Simple, because they spoke with us. And the other guy from the local community, they were believing that we gave money to them. We gave money to the head of the village. And the head of the village said, no, I know this guy. I met him in Songea, 2 years ago. We just chit-chat. He, will come to register the thing. Say, but I'm sure he gave you some money. And they didn't believe him. So they start to beat him in order for him to say, where was the money? Gosh. So because we spoke to one guy and we give him a kind of and things like that, the other one was thinking that we give him money and then they beat him. Jeez. Jealousy. Yeah, it's serious. Super dangerous. Yeah. Super dangerous.
Well, I want to go through some of the questions as well. I want to combine two of them because they're kind of similar. Somebody asked, where can they read your papers? Which is a great question. And have you ever, or when are you going to do a book about all these adventures that you've been doing?
Well, you can read my papers. There is one very good way to read my papers. Usually it's a simple way. You go to Google, you put my name, and you put a place that you put Vincent Pardieu, for example, Mogok, and you will find some stuff. Or you put Vincent Pardieu, Madagascar. With Google, it's quite easy. But actually, if you want to see all my papers, you go to a ResearchGate. It's a kind of Facebook for researchers. It's a kind of website. You put a ResearchGate Vincent Pardieu on Google, you will find, and then you will find my profile, and you have about 80 to 83 publications, PDFs that you can download, and you will see nearly, I think I have written about 83 papers, or written myself, or participate in 83 papers, I think something like that. So you can find all of them on ResearchGate currently. Yeah.
And what about,
or, randomly on internet, you find them in Color Magazine, Gemology, GA website, my former website. I don't even think about my former website as the paper, but my former website will be, yeah, that's something I wanted to say. During this confinement, I'm working on putting back my website in order, and I hope that within maybe 1 month, 1.5 months, or 2 months, because I got a little bit too much optimistic. Sometimes I rewrite something and I add something, and I lose a lot of time because because I want to make the thing perfect, and I think that some of my paper I could improve them, but actually maybe it's not a good idea. So I hope that my website should be back online in about 1 month, 2 months.
Okay. And any plans for a book or to compile some of these tales? Someone had asked.
Well, yeah. The problem with books is it's expensive. I don't have the money to make a book. And because I don't have the money to make a book, I could maybe work on a book if I have the time and the money. To work on a book, maybe it might take, when I discussed with Richard Hughes, Richard, I know it took him 1 year to make, 2 years of work to make Ruby and Sapphire. I cannot afford stopping working for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm not a rich guy. I need to work in order to make a living. So I don't have enough savings to say, okay, I stop working for 2 years and I work on a book project. So maybe I will do that when I will retire. The only problem is I don't think I can afford to be retired because I'm not living, I'm maybe French, but I'm not living under the French system. So I will not have retirement.
Yeah.
I will not have retirement. I know that I will have to work for the next 25 or 30 years because I don't have money in any kind of retirement fund. So I decided many years ago to have a life that will be outside of the kind of French system and things like that. I cannot afford to retire. Or I need to have some saving. And then sometime, okay, you start to save money and then there is coronavirus coming. Oh, I don't have any more income for the next 5 or 6 months. Good, my retirement saving are going to my survival of this unexpected kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, somebody had even just asked that. How do you think the coronavirus is going to affect, the gem market and even the global trade of gems, since everything's sort of stopped right now?
Well, I can tell you, currently labs, the labs that were thinking to work with me in order for me to collect a sample for them, they stop. So basically, most of my customers just vanish. All their budget are basically zero. So when everything will start, I can go to the field, but on my private funding. So I don't know if I will be able to do that for quite for long, because currently everything is. I'm not working anymore for a big laboratory like a GA or something like that. So when I travel with a team of cameramen, I have to pay salary, I have to pay the ticket, and I have these videos are super expensive. For my budget, they are super expensive. Maybe for a big lab budget, that's affordable, but I'm not anymore with a big lab, paying all my travel expense and my cameraman expense. So I'm thinking about ways to do that. I think that if I don't find some innovation, I will be possibly a part of the people who will maybe have to die or change the thing and change their way to do, because currently I think that if it lasts a few more months, I'm going bankrupt.
Yeah, I think you're not the only one. A lot of people are
No,
feeling.
I think that, so I don't know. I'm not. Now I'm thinking. Today I was speaking with my diving instructor, and I think that when all this thing will stop, people will be probably happy to maybe go to the field. So if some people are willing me to take them to the field, maybe we can speak about that. Or probably many people will be happy to go again on a diving stuff. And I'm a dive master, so I can work maybe for 2 or 3 months as a dive master in order to, because I think I would love, now I'm confined quite a lot, I cannot go diving, but I think if it's continue like that for 3 or 4 months, maybe I would be happy to spend 1 month going diving and taking people diving and making a little bit of money, because maybe I will not find any customer to go to the field, any lab who is willing to cover expedition. So during the meanwhile, maybe I will work as a professional diver.
Interesting.
I have no idea. I'm
Someone
open to everything.
Yeah.
I can adapt.
Yeah.
Or maybe I don't know. But working on a book,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting broke.
Yeah. Somebody had asked, because you're speaking about being a dive master, has that helped you? Has the skill set that you learned from being a dive master helped you in the field in terms of, planning and safety? Or I know you had planned to do some underwater expeditions that never ended up working out, but
Yeah.
Even in the regular.
No, it helped me a lot. It helped a lot, because last year, this year, for me, confinement, okay, I'm getting broke, but this is much more easy than last year. Last year, I had also 2 months of confinement because I had sciatica. Because after 20 years on bad roads and things like that, you know, if you work as a field gemologist for 20 years, I can tell you, you can expect to have several things. You are nearly sure to have a divorce. You are nearly sure to get sciatica because you will be on bad road or in front of a computer or in front of a microscope, and it's not very good for the back after 20 years. And maybe you will break few bones and you will have some malaria and stuff like that. That's part of the package. You know, you can be super careful, but accident happen, problem happen. After 20 years, statistics are that you are very likely to have all these kind of things. This is part of the package. So you don't have to complain. This is part of the thing. So last year, because of Colombia and because of Madagascar on the road that were not great, I was stuck for 2 months in a bed with sciatica. I could not even go to the toilet. I was thinking that my life was finished, that field expedition finished or whatever. I was not really thinking about suicide, but you know, a little bit borderline. I say, well, is it if this has to go like that for 2 or 3 years? And I could not even sleep. Every 15 minutes, I was waking up by pain, and pain incredible. I never, even malaria was great. Malaria was great compared to sciatica.
Yeah. So
confinement this year, it's so far 1 month is great because I don't have the pain. So I can sleep, I can work, and see. Last year, it was a disaster. What saved me last year, actually, is after I decided to go for a surgery. Many people say, oh, don't do a surgery and things like that. I say, okay, natural thing, or I have to wait for 2 years and things like that. I cannot wait for 2 years, I will get bankrupt. So I decided to go for surgery. I had the surgery, many people told me not to do. At the end, I had so much pain, I said, okay, I do it. And the next day I was walking. And a few days later, I was able to take back the plane, going back in Bahrain, discussing and things like that, and planning new expedition. But the head of the board in Bahrain told me that, Vincent, you know, we are changing a little bit this thing. We are okay to renew your contract, but you have to do diving. You have to go for pearls. You have to go for pearl field gemology because the focus now is not too much anymore do pearl research, so we renew your contract, but you have to spend 50% of your time doing pearl field gemology. And in my contract, it's written, oh, I need to get an insurance for what I do. Can I be insured? And how can I be insured on doing pearl field gemology like diving? And I check and I say, oh, you can be insured only if you have a dive master. Okay. So if I want to get my contract with Danat, I need to get a dive master. And for Danat, I was supposed to have the first pearl expedition at the end of July, and we were in March. I said, how long time is it to do the dive master? 4 months, 5 months, so could not. So then I found a place in Bangkok where a guy proposed me to do the dive master in 2 months, intensive class, but I had to come with minimum 2 people because you have a dive buddy. So I told that to my cameraman who was ready to come, but he had already booked for something in another school. So at the end, I had to go with my girlfriend. I asked my girlfriend, do you want to go doing the dive master with me? And she was training for yoga and she accepted. So I said, okay, wow, that's cool. Instead to have my cameraman, I will work with my girlfriend. Okay, why not? My cameraman doing his dive master in Koh Tao, I do my dive master in Samisan. And for 2 months, doing this dive master and swimming every day with my girlfriend, who is a yoga addict and a kind of very soon she should be a yoga teacher. She's finishing her stuff after many years of yoga. My back went back. Every, you know, the dive master, the 2 months swimming and diving put back my back in order. So then I was able to go again on expedition in Brazil. And last year, I was able to go again on the same place where I broke my back 2 years ago in Madagascar and do exactly the same and even worse. Wow. But this time I had a small stuff. I knew how to take care of my back, not to have too many problems. But the dive master helped me a lot, yes, because now I have I'm fit again to go to the field, thanks to diving.
That's great.
Swimming every day.
Well,
and doing a little bit of yoga, like you at the beginning. I would say, you were telling me that, Vincent, you should do some yoga. Victoria was telling me you should do some yoga. I say, yeah, maybe when I will have time. Now I'm doing every morning,
yeah.
a little bit. I'm doing exercise every morning.
Well, it's getting pretty late. I want to go through some of the questions. They just keep popping up, so I don't think we'll be able to do all of them, but I think we can do a couple of them real quick. What was the longest expedition that you ever did?
3 months.
Okay. Where'd you go?
All around East Africa.
Okay, that leads to the next question. What are the similarities and differences between all the African mines that you've seen? Are they generally similar, compared to, let's say?
No, they are not similar. You have huge diversity. You can go to some mines like Kagem or MRM, mine operated by Gemfields, that are modern operations, that are surface operation or that are underground operation, like a Tanzanite one. It was a big underground operation, very professionally done. Then you have Kagem, which is a huge open pit, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. So you have some large-scale mining, what I call large-scale mining, on a very high-tech mining. And then you have also very low-tech mining with mines that are illegal, that are just done by a family who are just farmers, and they don't have a mining license. They don't have any skills about mining. They don't know anything about mining, but just because it's the dry season and there is no job in their farm, they go, basically they are more digging than mining. They are digging and they are washing the ground, and then maybe they get a stone, maybe they don't get a stone. If they don't get a stone, anyway, they don't have money because in their farm they don't have any income. But going mining, they feel that maybe they get a chance to get some income, and maybe also they get a chance to get rich. So you have in Africa, from small-scale illegal mining done by totally unqualified people who just go there because they feel that the best thing they can do. And you have small legal mines that are working with hand tools. And then you have middle mines that are a little bit mechanized. And then you have medium plus mines that are, sometimes 100 people or 150 people, partially mechanized, but with a lot of human labor. You have some mines where you have big mechanized mine, modern mine, and you have absolutely everything. In Africa, what is incredible is you have the whole diversity of everything.
Wow.
It's and sometimes you have them next to each other. Sometimes it's going very well. Sometimes it's not going super well because there are tensions and jealousy and all these things.
Yeah. Somebody had asked, is there a limit to the number of samples or the weight of the samples that you can bring back from the mine in general?
Yeah, and limit in weight. Like it depends, because it depends about the regulation of every country. It depends. No, in weight, sometimes I bring back more than 40, 50 kilograms of sample. I didn't bring them back myself because most of the time when I go to mining area, I work with a local gem merchant, and the local gem merchant, number one, he was the one who introduced me to the miners and things like that. And he's the one who is in charge of exporting the sample, because I'm not a gem dealer. Number one, I don't have a license to buy the sample. So usually I collaborate with the gem merchant. And then this gem merchant is organizing for the shipping of my sample back to the lab. Mm. So sometimes, I have boxes like 20 kilograms, because I collect also sometimes some geological sample. I just don't collect the stone like that, but I collect also the rocks that are nearby. So when I visit primary deposit, when you find gemstone in rock, usually you bring back more sample and more weight than when you visit a secondary deposit where you just have a sample stone in gravels. So you have just a small bag of fine, clean material. And when you go to visit a primary deposit, you have 20 or 40 kilograms of rocks.
Yeah.
So it depends.
Yeah.
But I think the maximum I ever bring back, I think it was from Pakistan. I had a box about 50 kilograms of rocks. Wow. Because it was a sample in the mountain. So every mine, it was 1 or 2 kilos. And then we visited different mines nearly. We visited about I don't know, 20 mines. So I bring back more than 50 kilos on that trip.
Yeah, geez. Do you have any special plans for your 150th trip? Any destination in mind?
I have no idea what I will be. I think the next destination I will go, it will be Greenland again, because currently I'm working with Greenland. I'm consulting with them. Basically I have a contract since I left GIA. My first customer was Greenland Ruby. They asked me to go to visit the mine because they were iron miners. Actually, there was a company before Greenland Ruby that was True North, that mine, and then they were bankrupt. And one of their partners, there was a Norwegian company who True North asked them to build the mine. So they didn't really pay them. So they pay them with a share of the mine, like partnership. So, okay, LNS builds the mine, and then the company bankrupt. And then, so LNS was given by, the law bankruptcy, was given all the assets, the mine and the equipment and the whole thing. So then they said, but I have no idea. They are not, they were they were iron miners, but they knew nothing about ruby and things like that. So they asked me to come and to give my opinion on their mine, on their production. So I checked, and then I told them what I was thinking about all that. And since then, I'm collaborating with them. And currently, I'm visiting the mine every 2 months, if there was no coronavirus. And I'm training the geologists and the staff at the mine, because they have a very good geologist at the mine, but they are geologists specialized on the iron mine. So I'm turning them into geologists with a good understanding of a ruby mine. And also the staff regarding grading, and then helping with the heat treatment of the production. I gave a webinar about that about 10 days ago. And if you want to learn more about that, it's on AIGS website. So you can go on AIGS thing, and you will find this webinar about 1 hour about where I explain about Greenland ruby. So I think that when with coronavirus will be story will be finished, I think I will go to Greenland to train, spend maybe 1 week or 2 weeks at the mine. It would be great. There will be I will be again in the middle of nature. The mine is just a wonderful place, so quiet. You see a north side, and you can see hares or grouse or reindeers, and it happens several times. So I really like it, and it's a kind of. When I was kid, one of my favorite book was White Fang from Jack London. So going to Greenland, it's I really enjoy the cold. I'm living in Bangkok all the time, so when I go there, it's -20. It's kind of cool. So I like it. I really enjoy to spend some time there. And then after that, I don't know, because if there is any lab with willing me to go to some place to collect sample for them, okay. But I think that for a while I will, Greenland first, and then I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, so this will be the last question of the night, because I think this is a good one to end on. What's your best advice to give to students today who want to work with gemstones and want to either maybe they just finished gemology school or they want to get into the trade? What do you have to say to them?
Try to find out what you really want. Try many things. Try things. My number one advice is find a boss, find a mentor. Don't search for a salary. If when I finished my gemology, when I was doing my gemology in Thailand, I had several classmates. When they finished gemology at GIA, there were a few of them. They found a job for a gem merchant, and the job was not super interesting, but the pay was good. So they decided to take a job because they were saying, I spent some money with my class and things like that. I want to have a good job, and basically, I don't care. I want to have a good salary. They were searching for a salary because they wanted to have some comfort, to have a nice apartment, be able to go to a restaurant, have a girlfriend, and all this stuff. They wanted to have a salary. So they went and they found a salary. They were able to find, one guy was able to find a job at about $3,000 per month. And I can tell you in 2002, that was a lot. And me, I found a job that was at $300 per month. I took the job at $300 per month. And all my former classmates were laughing at me. They say, I'm stupid because why, you know, they were making between $1,000 and $3,000. I was making $300.
Yeah.
I have no idea where they are now. They are all out of the industry because they took a job. They took basically a salary. The job was not very interesting. They didn't really learn any good skills. After 3 or 4 years, their boss was squeezing them or things like that. And then they left the industry. They returned in their country and I have no idea what they are doing, but they are not working anymore with gemstones. Me, on the other hand, I took my first job, was $300 per month, the same salary as a Thai gemologist at this time. But I was lucky that my boss was Henry Ho. So people say at this time, oh, he's not paying you well, you know, he's not, yeah, maybe he's not paying me well, but somewhere, a Thai gemologist is paid $300 per month. So I take the same salary as a Thai gemologist. It's not because I'm foreigner that I work more, especially I don't speak Thai. I'm a gemologist, same as them. They speak Thai, I don't. Why should I have 10 times their salary? There is no reason for that, especially I'm more qualified than them. No, I just finished my school, same as them. So, you know, I take this job and then I learn. And then after 1 year, Henry found out that he gave me a lot of work and he teach me a lot. I learned a lot of things. And after 1 year, I was able to go from $300 to $1,000 per month because I was able to do things that other normal Thai gemologists were not able to do because I had a degree in science. I knew about spectroscopy and things like that. I was the most qualified person in the lab to work with advanced instrumentation. And then I had a degree in marketing. I knew about marketing and the other didn't. And then the other thing was, I was a foreigner there. My reason for to be in Thailand was to work, was not to go to party. I was a tour guide before. My plan was, I was here and I was working like a dog. In France, people were doing the 35 hours. Me, I was doing the 35 hours of sleep. The rest of the time, I was working. I was in Thailand. I was sleeping 5 or 6 hours per night. All the rest, I was working. And I did that for 3 years. And I was paid, some people say peanuts. Yeah. But then I learned a lot. Then I got qualified. And then after 5 years, I was able to get a job at a Gubelin Gem Lab. And then after 2 more years, I moved to GAA and I was hired by GAA to start the Field Gemology department. So for the first 7 years of my life as a gemologist, I invested in myself. I decided that knowledge was more important than a salary. The most important thing is who you are working with. Are you learning something in your job at the beginning? Are you getting some qualification? Are you becoming a good professional or you just get a salary? My advice to any young gemologist is become a good professional, learn as much as you can. Then you will be able to get a good position in the future. A gemological diploma, in my opinion, is the same as a driving license. You get your driving license. Good luck if you want to win a Formula One race.
Yeah.
Gemology, you know, you require a lot of experience. When you go to study in gemological school, it's great. I learned a lot. But when, you know, I was looking with my classmate, and sometimes we were wondering if we were studying gemology or if we were studying junkology. Because all the stones in the school were crap. We knew it was a natural stone because it was small and included. And we knew it was a synthetic because the stone was clean. There was no 2-carat ruby natural in the school. We knew that this stone could not be natural. But we have never seen in this gemological school any 2-carat ruby that was clean. And the day I went to the trade, my two first interview with the trade after getting my diploma at GA, the first trader that I went with they were showing me stone and they were asking me to identify like site ID because I wanted to have a job as a buyer. So I had a 30 stone quiz. I never saw any stone like that except in books, but I had in front of them and I had to identify the stone like that. A 5-carat ruby, like a Burmese clay, a 10-carat tsavorite that was beautiful, a 20-carat tourmaline, a 50-carat spinel, a diamond like 25-carat. I have never seen that during my time in the school. So I saw that there was such a difference between my gemological education and the stones that you can see in trade shows that I say, wow, okay, I need, what is the difference, you know, a 20-carat cashmere and a 20-carat sapphire from Madagascar? The only stone that I saw in gemological school, they were tiny, and so you know how to identify stone, but you don't have seen the variety and the quality. You don't know anything about quality because you don't see quality stone in gemological school. Yeah. If you want to learn about quality, you have to go and see in trade show, in an auction by Christie Sotheby's, where then you go to this auction and you have a chance to see with your loupe the stone. And to get enough experience, it will take maybe 10 years doing that. And after 10 years, this is what I advise to young people. If you want to be successful in this industry, you need 3 things. You need knowledge. Then you need connections. And then you need money to invest and things like that. That's the 3 things you need to be to do gem business. You can, if you start with you have money, you have no knowledge and no connection. Okay, you have plenty of money. You spend your money, you do a lot of stupid things. If you are not that stupid, you will learn from your mistake. And at one point, you know, you throw money, you spend money. At one point, you will learn. Maybe before you will be totally broke, you will be able to start making money. But at the beginning, you will lose money because you make mistake. Then, if at one point you stop losing money and you start to make money, then first you lose money and then you make money. One good way to lose money, in my opinion, is to study gemology, for example. So you lose money, you spend a few $1,000s, you go to get a diploma in gemology. And then a second way to lose money is you get a job where you will learn something good, and like me, that, oh, I have some saving, I can afford to work for this guy for 6 years before getting broke. So for 6 years, you work and you learn with that guy. One of my friends in France did that, and he was able to create his job doing that. He worked for 5 years. He was losing money every month, but at the end, he had the job he wanted. So basically, you pay to learn 5 or 6 years. There are some people, they spend 7 years spending money to make a PhD. And after 10 years, you get enough knowledge. Then you get also contact, because if you work for 5 or 6 years, you're working, you will make contact, maybe customers or maybe suppliers, you will have a reputation in the industry. So you invest in your reputation, you invest in your skill, and you invest in your social network. You're losing but maybe a little bit of money every month. Okay, but after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, some people will say, oh, this guy is good. And then some people will say, oh, this guy is good. He has good customers, he has good suppliers and things like that. I'm getting old, I'm 60, I don't have children. I don't want my business to be vanish. I want to have somebody to take over me, you know. So maybe this guy, I like him. I like the way he do. I'm looking at him for the past 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Maybe I will go to give him a proposal. And then one day, a guy that you met for every day and you had no idea, one day this guy will sit down in front of you at a lunch or a dinner, and he will say, why don't we become partners? We work together. Every year I give you 5% of my business. In 10 years, you will have 50% of the business. And in 11 years, you will be, and then you continue, and for the next 20 years, you take over my business. And we work together. And this, some people say, oh, you are lucky. No, this is not luck. this is 10 years of hard work in order to get a good reputation and to get enough good skill in order for somebody at the end to say, okay, I want to work with you and we will work together and I will train you. So to succeed in the gem industry, you need knowledge, you need a network, a good reputation, friends and things like that, and then you need money. The most easy thing to do is knowledge. You just have to work hard and to learn. Then you build yourself a good reputation. You don't want to do funny things like asking the first policeman you see if you can buy drugs and things like that, and then you have a guy like me telling this story for the next 25 years. Maybe not a good idea. So, or there are many other things that, the industry, they love to gossip. So as soon, you will do a lot of mistakes, people will gossip, it's okay, but you have to survive, your kind of funny stuff. So if you get a good reputation, then at the end, and I saw that several times with some of my friends, after 5 or 10 years, somebody came and proposed them something exactly the same as me. I put my website, I created this website, fieldgemology.com. I was told on the website, I create another one, fieldgemology.org. And one day I received a phone call from Ken Scarrett and say, Vincent, a phone call by Richard Hughes. Vincent, if somebody makes you a proposal that you cannot refuse, will you accept it? I say, yes, of course, because at this time I told Richard a few days before that I was willing to resign from Gubelin. And if he had something interesting, I would be interested to listen about that. So I resigned from Gubelin, and then he said, Vincent, in 5 minutes, Ken Scarrett will phone to you. Okay. And then Ken phoned to me and said, well, Vincent, I heard that you resigned from Gubelin, and would you be interested to turn your field gemology hobby into a profession and build a field gemology department at GA with me? I say, yeah, sure. When do you want to discuss about that? And then we started discussing. And then 2 months later, I was at GA. And 3 months later, I started to build the field gemology department at GA. So I was able to turn my hobby into my profession.
Yeah.
It took me from 2001 to 2008.
Yeah.
It took me 7 years.
So it sounds like you, aside from the 3 things that you named, passion is another one that you're going to need to bring you through all those years of, striving towards where you're trying to get to.
Focus on discipline. Yeah, if I don't give up, that's the thing. I'm not the best, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the most clever, I'm not the wisest and things like that. But there is one thing is I don't give up. Well, I never give up on my dreams.
Yeah, I know.
So, then I turn my dream into project, and then, okay, I look at my weak point and my strong point, and I say, okay, I'm here, I want to go there, so I should do that.
Yeah.
I make a plan.
Well, I know you've written about this. I know I've written about this too, in terms of like, what can a new student do? If you're going to come out to Bangkok, there's so many other opportunities. You're so close to Lukin, to Mogok, even to Sri Lanka. It's a pretty quick flight. There's so many places you can go to get firsthand knowledge and, build, aside from what you're saying, once you finish school, you've only seen small stones that are included. And if you want to see the good stuff, or at least the real stuff, you can go out into the mines. And of course, this is
No, at the mine, you will see very few stones because they are rare, but you have to get to work. You have to get a job, and then you will see good stuff.
Yeah.
You have to choose a company you will go to work with. You look at the trade, you go to the Bangkok show, the Hong Kong show, you go to Scout, you go on internet, you go to see, and you identify the company you want to go to work, and you go to see them, and you ask them, and they say, no, it's okay. 1 week later, you ask them again, and then you ask them again. I have several friends, they were able to get a job after getting refused by the same company 15 times.
Yeah.
When you go to see a company 15 times, the guy say, oh, this guy really wants to work for me. So maybe he will not quit after 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. So maybe this guy is motivated.
Yeah.
So if you consider that when somebody tell you no, that you are dead and you should go to work in McDonald's, yeah, right, you are not for this industry. You are not fit for this industry because you don't have enough passion.
Yeah.
If you accept a no as, okay, he told me no, so my life is finished. Come on.
Yeah, can't give up. Well, I
Focus and
know,
discipline, you
and
know.
this idea as well, that you don't really get to see all of the good stuff in school. This is exactly kind of the reason why we started our school, IGT, and we made the rough
Yeah.
course and we have the cutting course to be able to show some of this more higher end stuff and more diverse stuff, and just see rough as well, because like you've seen so much rough in the mines. And I know in when I did GIA, we never saw rough in the whole class. So the fact that now we can have a course that just looks at rough or just looks at cutting, this is kind of cool as well. Well, Vincent, I want to thank you. It's been awesome. We've been on here for 3 hours. It's crazy, but it's been fun. You've got to put a lot of good stories out there, and hopefully a lot of good knowledge for people that had questions. And I want to say thanks to all the guests and all the people who put questions on here. Sorry if we didn't get to say answers to every single one, but obviously we had a lot to do tonight. But thank you again, Vincent, and we look forward to your next video.
One thing, if people have questions and we did an answer or something like that, it's very simple. I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram, I have a YouTube account. You can go on my social media, you find me there, you follow what I'm doing, and you can already scout the thing. I written a lot of articles, so maybe the answer are there already. And if you want to ask me a question, usually I don't shoot at people who ask me questions. Usually I just answer the question, like with you. And I remember you asked me several times to go to the field, and I say no several times. I didn't took you at the first time.
Yeah, but then
Correct?
it worked out. So
Yeah.
and I followed your advice. I mean, I'm definitely the perfect example of someone who follows your advice, because I followed your advice and I did get a job and I didn't have to leave Bangkok, and now we started our own school, and everything is okay. So
You're doing
the
great. The thing
formula
is,
works.
yeah, you exactly. Well, it worked with me. This kind of thing, this kind of advice. I didn't create it then. I was told that by people like Tete Minis, by Richard Hughes, by Henry Ho, and things like that. These people, that's what I call mentors. People who dedicate some of their time. And I was fortunate enough to have some of these great people in the industry, like first Tete Minis, and then Henry Ho, and then Richard Hughes, Jean-Claude Michelou, Gaston Giuliani, and Ken Scarrett. For the most of them, but there are others like Christian Dunègre and things like that who spend, or George Bossart, who spends some of time and providing me some advice. Henry Haney also, and Dr. Gubelin, I was able to have a lunch with him, and he told me a few things that I will remember all my life. So listening the advice of old timers. Now maybe I'm 50. I don't consider myself yet as an old timer, but when I see, for example, your wife, like she could be my daughter, so I start to feel that I'm maybe a little bit an old timer. But my God.
I mean, you've been a mentor already to a lot of people, and then hopefully a lot more to come. So we
So
appreciate
send
you
me some
being
question.
here.
If I can help, I will dedicate 5 minutes, 10 minutes to telling you that. Then you follow my advice. It's okay. You don't follow my advice. No problem. It's your life. My advice are simple. Work hard and work smart.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to do. When you don't have money, you don't have connection, you find a job, you work hard and you work smart. You keep yourself a good reputation. And then you are doing like a sniper, you get stronger and stronger and stronger every day, more knowledgeable, you get a better reputation, and one day hard work will pay, especially if you put on the top of your hard work a little bit of smart work.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank
now,
you.
if you don't work and you do stupid stuff, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. Okay, well, we can wrap this up. So I'm going to be doing these interviews every Sunday with different people from the trade. So check back on my Instagram, on the IGT Thailand Instagram. We're going to be, keep posting flyers and stuff. Thank you, Vincent, for being here. Next weekend, we're going to be talking with Simon Dessart and Farouk Hashmi together, talking about the state of the trade leading up to the coronavirus, and kind of what's going on now in the world, and just generally talking about the gem trade and the coronavirus and the world right now. So that should be interesting. thanks everyone for being here. And of course, thank you again to Vincent. And we're going to sign off here from Bangkok. See you later.
See you,
I'm
everybody.
going to end this.